Amanda, there's no time.
Okay, good.
It's one of these.
All right, bye, everybody.
One of these this week. Hey, everybody, podcast, Rach like Jeff. Got Amanda.
I'm Rachel like Amanda.
Yep, and we have, last week we had one San Diego Comic-Con trailer that we talked about. It was just the Titans trailer, right? The fuck Batman, right?
The fun-loving Titans trailer. Yes, everyone loved it and enjoyed it.
This week, though, we've got a whole bunch of other...
and the rest.
Right, because like we recorded on Thursday, and then I feel like over Friday and Saturday.
Yeah, of course, everything else came out.
So... Yes, we are going to. Before we just jump into it. Let me say that it's been a little strange this year because I feel like DC's stuff that we're going to get into, like DC doesn't. I feel like we're on the after you go over like the first hump on a roller coaster, and you come down, and then it's like we're on the like check back up part because we had Batman versus Superman, we had Justice League from DC, we had Infinity War from Marvel, we had all the stuff that was leading up to that, and then like all those events are done, and now we're like building back up to a new big thing.
I want the loop.
Yes, the one where you go upside down.
Yeah.
What's your roller coaster method of choice? Do you like the ones where they hook you on the top and then you're just hanging off the bottom?
I actually have a shoulder problem because of the ones that hook you from the top.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I went on a roller coaster when I was too young, and the space between the shoulder harness and where I actually was, there was too much of a gap. I literally was slamming my shoulders into the
Jesus
thing. Yeah.
What about like inside, like Space Mountain?
I love indoor like roller coasters like that.
Yeah, me too.
I don't like loops. I actually don't like loops.
You don't like the loops?
No, because I got to take my glasses off, and then I get a headache really easily. So, like, if you're going to jostle me that much, plus not let me have my glasses on, you're basically asking me to get on this headache machine.
Okay.
The headache inducer.
Or you could just play the persistence for 20 minutes.
Yeah, the Vominator.
The Vominator, yeah. So anyway, all right, let's make Matt Frank cry by kicking this off by talking about Godzilla.
This is the worst. I hate it. Everything's bad. Is Matt still listening?
Godzilla, King of Monsters. Okay, so I'm going to say it's a strange world that we live in. Matt's commented on this several times, but I'm thinking it's a very strange world that we live in where there's like the second American Godzilla movie, the second Japanese Godzilla movie, the third Netflix animated Godzilla thing. Like, there's a lot of Godzilla out there right now.
Yeah.
And so what a time it is to be Matt Frank.
Yeah, to be a Godzilla fan.
Anyway, so I talked about a little bit on one of the other videos, this Godzilla King of the Monsters trailer. I'm not instantly just like, oh my God, it's that chick from Stranger Things.
Yeah, I don't care about Millie Brown.
Yeah. In fact, the parts of this that, as with everything Godzilla, I don't know how I can... everybody who likes Godzilla movies fucking hates me. Because I'm like, the people? Yeah, I can't fucking care less about what the fuck is going on with them.
Yeah, you just want, like, monsters monstering around.
Yeah. Now, the cool thing about this trailer...
You want Pacific Rim.
Yes. Yeah, I want two-dimensional characters with just enough, like really thin...
I've got an attitude. He's got an attitude. Get your ass up there and fight me some giant monsters.
I'm the guy with loss. I'm the hot shot. I'm the girl that wants to be the one. I'm the old commander guy.
I'm Idris Elba. Everyone loves me.
We're the funny nerds.
Yeah.
And it's like, great, fine. That's all I needed.
Perfect.
All of this bullshit about how, like, the Earth is... created
Titans. I swear to God, I don't remember that actress's name. She's in The Conjuring and shit like that, isn't she?
Oh, yeah, the one.
I forget her name, but it just every time she says Titans, I feel like she's air quoting.
Yeah.
And these Titans are we need to survive, and if we don't release all of the Titans. It's just like oddly said.
It's like, come on, Godzilla. It's 2018. We all know what kaiju are, all right? Just fucking...
Just say, like, don't assume we're idiots.
It's like the way that The Walking Dead won't call them zombies. It's like they're walkers. Like, all right, whatever.
Okay.
But the upside for me is that this trailer, hey, spoiler alert for this movie. Apparently, they're just going to shove it full of... I mean, I feel like I'm seeing the silhouettes of at least Rodan, Mothra, and King Ghidorah in here on top of just like, hey, look, it's fucking Godzilla. So, like, maybe this is a big Godzilla beatdown movie.
It's an all-out monster brawl.
Yeah.
I'm hyped for it. I have no idea what the movie's actually about, they say a lot of words in it. They're like humans, and then they say things, but none of it makes actual sense, where they're like, these titans, and we need I thought it sounds like an extended metaphor, but it doesn't make any sense. So it's just like, these titans need to be found, and they're here to save us. And then it's like, but is it? But how? So is Godzilla? How? So is King Ghidorah like a bad guy or a good? I've never seen him be a good guy.
No.
And then there's Mothra and Rodan. And are they good guys? Why is Godzilla sending signals out to space?
He's calling the rest of the Autobots back to Earth.
What the fuck is happening? So it doesn't make, what they're saying to me doesn't make a lot of sense as far as what the fuck the plot is.
Yeah.
But imagery wise, monsters look fucking amazing.
They absolutely do. Although we did get also a little of just a real quick helping of Jeff's favorite thing in the world.
Oh, no.
Of like, you're the monster.
Oh, yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
And
turns out it was man.
Oh,
yeah.
God, oh, Jesus God in heaven. Can we get that shit a break? Yeah, we all know.
In fairness, that is often a running theme in Godzilla movies.
Yeah.
If you excuse me, if you don't watch more Godzilla movies, you would know that that's a long running.
No, I don't want to watch more Godzilla.
I like the one where it's like a little kid having a dream and Minya's there, and
oh God, no.
And there's like a cat dragon thing, and Godzilla steps on his tail and he shoots little circle fires. See what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do know that.
It's literally the worst one, and I've seen it more often than I'd care to admit.
Anyway, I don't know. I mean, I guess it looks okay. All the stuff where they feel like they need to have the people in it, I'm just not exactly. The other thing that was weird about
people
this
look better than the last movie
is the music in this trailer I felt really weird. Like it was an orchestral theme that kind of went through the entire thing. Like it was a piece of music.
I bet it's gonna because it's what they're going for. Clearly, they have these long shots or not. That look like they're going to be long shots of just like Mothra's wings expanding while water is crescending down upon the world. It's just very like operatic almost, and I feel like the music was trying to do that. The problem is they intercut it with humans talking, and it's just like brr, brr.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm pretty happy with the way this looks.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
I'm not entranced. I'm hoping for the best. I didn't hate the last Godzilla movie, so I'm not going to hate this one probably.
I was very bored with the last Godzilla movie, and I get the feeling that I might be really bored with this Godzilla movie.
I think this one will be a step up from the last one for you.
I think so too. Next up, we got Aquaman, which it's weird.
I am equally confused by.
I could have sworn that Aquaman was like. Weren't they like gonna cancel it, or like it was, or James Wan like directed it, but then he said he wouldn't do any more, or like
something. I don't know, man. DC has a lot of weird shit going on with them.
This is real weird to me, and I feel like we were talking about this a little bit before we started. That there's a real strange thing to me about the broed out version of Aquaman that Jason Momoa is playing, and then
kind of into it.
All of the like weird palace intrigue, like everybody else is playing this thing like Game of Thrones.
Sire, you must return to your kingdom, or else your half brother will take over the land.
Right,
the sea land. You know what I mean.
And then Jason Momoa was like, redheads, am I right? Maui noise. And I'm like, that's the thing that's the most...
What the fuck? Did you just say manly noise?
No, I said Maui noise because his battle cry is exactly the thing that Maui does in Moana. Yeah. Like, I just...
Wow. So just all Samoan... Thank you. For God's sakes, my microphone keeps falling.
Well, no, but it came out... Him doing that in Justice League came out so close to Moana... And Maui does that all the way through Moana, so now when he does that, I'm just like, it's Maui time.
Yay! Well, I mean, that's not necessarily too far off. If you're gonna have a Samoan god, essentially, how could he not be that? Like, how would it not like? Tie into each other a little,
but Aquaman's not Samoan; he's Atlantean,
right? But Jason Momoa is Samoan, so,
all right.
So you kind of, I mean, they're not going to be like this white man, Jason Momoa, like.
I don't know. This looks a little bit more fun. I mean, like the one thing I will say about this is that both this and Shazam Like, watching these after watching Titans, I'm just like, oh, God, thank you, Lord, that it's not all just, like, cripplingly dark and fuck Batman. Like, that, it's not just all that all the time.
Also, I think enough people don't know Aquaman that he's one you have a little bit of free reign on changing his character a bit.
Yes.
And I don't know if people really want right now serious...
Like Arthur Curry.
Kind of. Even like...
like the way he is in like Injustice 2, where he's just like, I'm the king of the seas.
Yeah,
like,
it's just, I'm not sure if that would work for today's audience or right now's audience, because there's kind of a dark and edgy fatigue going on.
Yeah.
DC, take note for Titan.
Yes. Well,
what's funny is, though, it is really popular in television, not popular in movies.
Well, the other thing that I find really interesting, and that this is a good segue, is that it seems like of all the things that DC showed, that Titans was the darkest of them all, because Aquaman's fine and Shazam is downright goofy. Like,
Shazam looks perfect. Everyone describes it as big with superpowers.
Which is, yes, that is exactly what it looks like. Now, I don't really know anything about Captain Marvel. Like, I never really read any of the Captain Marvel books or any of that stuff.
I never read anything about his origins, so everything I've gotten of Captain Marvel has always been on the outskirts, where he's been well used within like a storyline already that they're not like, and this is how you got started. So it's hard for me to like judge an origin story for him.
Yeah, I mean,
he's not Captain Marvel anymore, though, right? Isn't he he's just Shazam?
It's like, look, I've said this a bunch of times. It's so irritating because I spent most of my life calling him Shazam,
and everyone's like, "No, it's Captain Marvel," and DC had to be like, "No, it's Shazam now."
So I'm probably going to inadvertently call him Captain Marvel because I've been doing that for like 25 years.
It's fine. I kept thinking it was Kazam for a while, and then I realized that's the Shaq movie where he's a genie.
Anyway, I don't know. This could really go a bunch of ways.
Everyone was very like, Zachary Levi, right? That's who's playing his like full man guy superhero.
Oh, version. I don't know who the hell that guy is. This guy.
Yeah. Like a lot of people hated the first picture that came out of him in the costume because it looked like he had like foam muscles.
Oh yeah.
And they were like, it looks like a fucking Halloween costume. It's like, it's supposed to, asshole. It's supposed to be kind of cartoony and silly.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, this is one that I have a hard time with because it is real goofy, and that has the potential. Like, I feel, you know what? I want to see. This is one where I'm like cautiously optimistic. I want to see a review of it because it looks like it could go either way of being like too stupid to where I'm just like, because I'm not a big fan of kids anyway, or it could be good, and who knows? Maybe, it doesn't look any goofier than some of the other stuff that's ended up being very good.
Yeah,
so.
I also want to point out that Shazam or Captain Marvel, his powers is based in magic, therefore he's stronger than Superman.
Yes.
Enjoy your days, kids. He would beat the ever-loving fuck out of Superman. The only reason why he wouldn't is because he's a kid.
He has actually beaten the ever-loving fuck out of Superman a bunch of times.
Yeah, several. There's actually an animated movie where he almost basically beats the ever-living shit, and Superman's all pissed off the whole time, and it turns out that...
that's Kingdom Come. At the end of Kingdom Come, Billy Batson's been brainwashed, and Superman is the only one who can stop this giant conflagration from happening, and Shazam is essentially blocking him from doing anything.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because Superman sucks. Anyway, I think this looks like...
Boo! I'm not letting that one just I'm not letting that one just roll right past.
No, John likes Superman too, and I always shit on Superman for him. But it looks like Deadpool for kids.
Yeah, like a PG version.
Yeah,
of
like
Deadpool.
Where it's not meta or anything like that, but it's very like wacky humor, cartoony silliness, but also
in this last part when he comes out of this convenience store, it seems like he's carrying like a 6-pack.
Yeah, they got beer because he looks like an adult.
Right, but then when they cut to the next one, he's holding an armful of like
Fritos and shit.
Fritos and junk food and stuff. So I'm sure there's something that happens in between those two shots.
I think you're maybe being hopeful.
I don't think that a continuity error like walking out with a 6-pack and then it immediately being an armful of Fritos. I don't know.
Maybe.
Anyway, let's move on to one of the ones that I was genuinely shocked by.
Yeah.
Glass. Which, if you told me, like, okay, so
I feel ways about this.
Okay, tell me how you feel. Because well, let me say, I saw Split, yeah. and everybody was like, you know what? It was strange because in an era of the internet spoiling everything, they kept that Split shit. Most of the people that saw that were good about not telling you what the thing was. And I watched it and I was like, oh shit, because I really liked Split. Yeah. Like, I thought it was very good. Like, I had a good time watching it. Yeah. Right. And then to this quickly jump into bringing. Okay, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen Split, pause this and go watch it. It's on everything, right? Yeah. Bringing Unbreakable back in and actually making this superhero universe that probably started 10 years too early. Yeah. I kind of like what I'm seeing with this. I don't know. What are your feelings?
I am the opposite.
You are the opposite.
Okay, think of it this way this is my perspective, is Unbreakable was appealing because you didn't know it was a superhero origin story.
Sure.
You got into it because M. Night was still kind of relevant, and it turns out it's a superhero story. Like, comic book fans could follow the breadcrumbs along the way,
right?
And knew a little sooner in the movie, but still. Split, I haven't seen it yet. It's on my list for horror movies to watch.
Yeah.
But
so wait, you haven't seen Split, but you have seen this trailer?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, what you get? I already knew the ending, so it's like, well, I'm not really spoiling anything for myself. But I haven't seen it. But the appeal was that it was a horror movie that turned out to be part of this bigger superhero storyline, essentially. This movie trailer is a superhero trailer. Like, by the end, they get full on, it's superheroes.
Well,
I mean, it's not Shazam. It's not somebody in a red cape fucking flying around. But this is a comic book movie trailer. Like, this definitely is much more that than what the Split or Unbreakable seem to be. And that, to me, it's just it loses something to me when they're just like, now we're doing the full force in front of your face. It's superheroes. I feel like they're pulling away from the idea of it being this real world or it being this kind of world. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess when I watch it, I guess what I'm seeing at the end of this is more like the Nolan Batman, where it was like, what if you had superheroes in the real world?
Yeah.
That we toyed with a lot, early on.
Right, but Nolan Batman had a tank driving in the middle of the street. Right. Unbreakable had a guy in a fucking poncho that would go and save people in, their tiny house. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It was so small compared to, it wasn't this big, and Batman saves all of Gotham. It was this guy saved 2 kids and then ran away because he almost drowned.
Right.
It wasn't a huge thing.
I guess I'm looking at it more like that, or more like Chronicle might be a better way to describe it. Of we just got done watching a bunch of superhero trailers that were very much superhero trailers, and this seems more like it's backing up to, like I said, that idea about 10 years ago that we had with what if superheroes were in the real world?
Yeah.
Then what happens?
I just feel like it's going a little more forward than that. I think it's not where it was 10 years ago, and you can't. This all looks like fucking superhero shit. To me, I don't know. Even the dialogue looks, and the thing I'm saying looks like superhero shit is they had, what's his name? James McAvoy?
Yes.
On all fours running super beast style.
Right.
I want to watch Split. If I like Split, that would really decide how excited I am for this. I feel like it loses something with me. I just want that element.
Okay.
But you can't, it's double-edged. You can't lie to people about what this movie is.
Right.
So,
Yeah. I don't know. I'm actually really excited about this because M. Night has been doing better work now. There's a good,
he got humbled a
decade
bit.
And a half of him just screwing the fuck up. So,
yeah. Also, I bet money. That's Sarah Paulson, right? I always forget her name. I would bet money that she has powers.
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
Hard cash.
All right. Well, we are now a little bit behind, so let's just roll. Justice League Outsiders, or Young Justice Outsiders.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that they're continuing Young Justice. Mm-hmm. I really like Young Justice, and I thought that it was a very good series. It was irritating to me that DC they dropped that in order to do more with their dark, edgy cinematic universe, right?
Yeah.
So I'm glad that this is getting hopefully a conclusion because I feel like I don't remember if there were 2 or 3 seasons before, but whatever the last one was, I feel like ended on a cliffhanger-ish, and then it was kind of like, oh, boo, we're never going to get to see the end of that. You haven't seen any of this.
Right?
Yeah,
I'm like, huh?
Yeah. And this trailer or this 5-minute trailer, like a lot of it's like recap of the last season, I think. So
it's just to remind people where it left off.
Yeah.
There was definitely some time between Young Justice ending and this starting up. And a bad shot of Lobo looking like a fucking barbarian.
Yeah, like
what the hell?
Lobo the Barbarian. I don't know.
I mean, I like it. There was Lobo the Pirate in New 52, and then there was weird Edward emo fucking bullshit Lobo.
No.
Don't even don't do it.
We're not going there. Disenchantment I'm excited about, just mostly because Matt Groening hasn't done me wrong. I liked Futurama more than The Simpsons, and I liked when Futurama did Dungeons and Dragons. So I'm hoping that this is kind of like that.
I hope there's more characters. I mean, I'm sure there will be, but it's just the 3 that you get, like Imp and the whatever Goblin,
something. Yeah.
They're like kind of cute, but I wish there was more like human characters with her.
Right. Which I mean, who could say
But this does look
it's also
good.
A little strange the way that like the backgrounds have a different style than we normally see in that kind of Simpsons Futurama type of stuff. Like they're a little bit more, they got a little bit more like sketchiness to the way that the backgrounds and the stuff looks.
Yeah.
But I'm totally down.
Yeah, I'm into it.
So, and then one I didn't expect to be into was Deadly Class, which looks like fucking Harry Potter with superheroes in the 80s.
Yeah. Punk as fuck Harry Potter.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it looks pretty cool. It's based on a graphic novel that I don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
But,
constantly getting recommended to me. I never read it. I'm an asshole. I'm sorry.
Who do you know who wrote it?
Rick Remender, I want to say.
Okay.
Probably.
Yeah, I don't know. This is the first I've ever heard of this. It looks pretty good. I haven't watched The Expanse yet, which was like the last kind of big sci-fi thing. Like, it used to be like sci-fi series were garbage for a while, and then they've been getting better. This looks really well. Like it's got some money in it, and it looks.
I thought it was a movie when you like first.
Yeah.
You first showed me the trailer, and the fact that it's not is.
I think it's a series.
Well, it's from the Sci-Fi Channel, right? So.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's a sci-fi original movie. Like they've done that before. Anyway, let's jump into games. I know there's some people out there who are just like, where are the fucking video games? So gaming news is a little weird this week. Our first story is that Bethesda has announced that the Fallout 76 beta is happening in October. We got that news at E3 when they announced Fallout 76 that they were going to have the B.E.T.A. whatever. There was some acronym, right? So anybody that pre-orders Fallout 76 is basically going to be able to play in this beta. But then a kind of strangely controversial thing that's happened is that they're going to be just like randomly letting people in way ahead of that time. So like not like if you've ordered early or as some kind of reward, but like they're basically just going to lottery people and let some people get into this beta super, super early.
Yeah.
It does kind of bring up an interesting question about like what exactly they're testing during this beta, like how much how many changes they could actually be making, and whether this is more of just like a glorified weird early access demo. But
it's online, right?
Yes.
Are we sure they're not just testing their servers by doing a little bit at a time, bringing people in?
Yeah.
So that when they launch, it's not total crash right away?
You know what? I've started to wonder whether it's possible to have a very smooth launch of an online game like this, because almost inevitably, even they're doing a pre-order beta and you get several thousand people
You're going to get a crash.
And then the day that it launches, like 1 million people try to log in and the servers are just like, and you know.
Yeah, but if you do lotto winners and then the people that get the beta, and then like if you're rolling it out little by little for yourselves, maybe it's kind of a nice tiny stress test for it.
Sure.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
That's me just giving them benefit of the doubt. It's not just beta for whatever.
All I know is it seems like because this isn't, I mean, it's because there isn't a single player game, because it is mostly an online game, like we have confirmation from Todd Howard that like there is a story, but it's like you're just listening to tapes and you're like following the other people who left the vault like with their tapes, but this is mostly one of those kind of like make your own fun, join up with your friends, do things.
I don't have friends and I don't like fun. Now what?
That the people that get into the beta early are basically just going to probably be playing most of what the game actually is early, that we're going to have a really early conception of what this is. Because God only knows if you get access
they,
to
lock all the story elements and all you can do is build your shit.
Well, that just seems like even worse.
I'm throwing out possibilities.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, the lion's share of the game seems to be the interaction with other people. So I feel like it's going to be a little strange that we're probably going to be seeing what the game is like early on, which could hurt Bethesda in the long run. Because, I mean, you know that the first round of beta access that gets sent out, one of those people is going to be a YouTuber or a Twitch streamer. Or if they're not.
Yeah, I kind of wonder if this, like, quote unquote, like, random list happens to be PewDiePie and Markiplier and the fucking MatPat and any other YouTuber that does, like, Let's Plays or live streams.
Maybe.
Who would have guessed?
But I think it's weird because Mass Effect Andromeda shot themselves in the foot with early access because people got like, I feel like it's a potentially bad move on their part to let people have up to 3 weeks before the game comes out to see what the game is I feel like there's got to be a certain number of people. Oh, okay. I'm completely spitballing here. I'm just like, you know, in the wind, right? There's got to be people out there that pre-ordered, that have seen it. They're like, great, I love Fallout. Pre-order Fallout 76. And they're not reading all this stuff. And then 3 weeks before the game comes out, somebody's like, oh, shit, this Twitch streamer has the Fallout 76 beta. He's streaming it right now. Let's go watch it. And you watch it, and you're just like, is this all that this game is? Especially in those early streams where there's not going to be a whole shitload of people like online, you know, you could end up with a very sparse world. Like if your major thing is interacting with other people and only a handful of people have it, it's possible that having that early access might make a really bad impression or at least start a narrative of like, what the fuck even is this? And it doesn't look very good, that may end up causing damage to the brand before the game comes out.
If it's a bad game, it could be potentially bad.
Yes.
If it's a good game, having that much early beta isn't the worst thing in the world.
Yeah.
For fuck's sake, Minecraft was in beta for like 11,000 years, and everyone already did Let's Plays on it before it even fucking launched.
Yep. Well, Overwatch was the same way, right? You know, Overwatch was in beta for at least a few months before it finally launched. But
yeah, so, you know,
I don't know.
We'll find out 3 weeks before the game comes out.
I'll tell you what, though, because it's coming out in was this November 14th, I believe. But there was a trailer that also dropped this week that makes me much happier.
Yay.
That was for Fallout Miami, which is a total conversion mod for Fallout 3.
Do they
Fallout
have
4.
like a 50s style version of Welcome to Miami by Will Smith?
No, that would be pretty amazing, though. It's mostly just like voiceover, but it's all really well done with like some ghoul kind of talking about the different factions. I mean, they're obviously just using like assets from Fallout 4 to build like basically a whole game, and they've got some stuff in here that's not, you know, like the palm trees, and they've got the kind of downtown Miami skyline. They've got instead of death claws, they're like death crocs. They're like big crocodiles.
Yeah, that's funny.
They've got like sandstorms, and then, you know, there's like the beach, and there's a lot of kind of neon and craziness. I think it looks really cool, personally.
Yeah, it looks fun. Like, if you're itching for more Fallout.
It kind of makes me wonder, though, at some point, like, you know, the Fallout community fucking loves. Oh yeah, there's ghouls with
like the
inner
tubes.
Yeah. The Fallout community loves doing these mods, and I'm almost like, if you were Bethesda, it seems like you could hire some of these mod teams and just throw some resources at them, and then charge $30 for these as like expansions, right? as opposed to, because so many of these Fallout mods just look, they're so well put together. There was one not too long ago that there was a trailer for that was a conversion for New Vegas that added like a bunch of new stuff into it.
Yeah.
And I feel like, why not just hire some of these teams and then give them a direction, pay them, and then just keep making these mods into actual things that you could charge people for online? I don't know. Maybe they don't like money, or maybe they
hate money.
Maybe they hate money. Maybe they hate us. Maybe it's just pure unbridled contempt. Much like people are currently having for God of War. Or that's not really true. So there was an interesting thing that happened in God of War last week where Cory Balrog, the director on God of War, basically went online and said that there was like one final secret that people hadn't found in God of War.
What was it?
And that it was in the house, the Kratos in the kid's house. So a lot of people have looked around and they've looked through the house and they found 4 runes that spell out a name, that I'm being vague here, that is very important to the plot line. Anybody that has played the game knows a very important name of a character, right? That maybe you find out at the very end of the game, right? That you could find out at the very beginning of the game if you were to put these runes together, even though there's no reference to what that would mean. Whose name that would be.
If you're seeing that name out of context, it wouldn't mean anything.
Right. It would be like, I mean, okay, right?
Yeah.
You know, and it's got some people upset because there's still the potential that this might not be what he was talking about, but I feel like a lot of people on Reddit, there's like a subreddit that came together to try to figure out what the fuck they were talking about that was just like going over every inch of the house. And when they put that together, they were like, well, that's not it, right? It was literally...
they were like, that's too easy.
It was literally like... Be sure to drink your Ovaltine.
Yeah.
A damn commercial. Like, you know, so I don't know. It'd be interesting to see if there was anything left in there, because there was apparently still some kind of weird stuff that hadn't entirely been explained and people weren't sure whether there was solutions to it inside of the game or whether it was something that was going to be for the second.
Yeah.
Whatever the second game of the series is going to be. Let's see. From there... Let's talk legals.
Okay.
Let's talk legals. We got 2 legal cases this week. One is, I don't know if you were on, but Quantic Dream, the company that made Detroit Become Human, had this kind of scandal about 4 or 5 months ago where several of the employees basically said that it was like a horrible place to work.
Yeah.
And that like they were like photoshopping employees' heads onto like racist cartoons and like... You know, the people were just like printing out porn and putting it up.
I remember.
At work.
Yeah, I think I was part of this conversation last time.
So several people quit, and in Europe, apparently, there is a method by which you can basically, if you quit from a company, you can then take a grievance about why you quit to like this. What do they call it? It's a board for. Let's see. Sorry, I'm just trying to see the name of it. It's like an unemployment board, right? And so what you can do is if you quit, you can go to them and you say, I quit because this place is fucking terrible.
Yeah.
The board does an inquiry into seeing if yes it is or no it isn't. If yes, then you will get paid unemployment even though you quit, right?
Yeah.
So of the people that left that company, 2 of their cases were dismissed and one is currently in review, but one of the people basically got that statute upheld to this board that said, yes, this was fucked up. And so there aren't a lot of details to this, but it does seem to indicate that they found something.
Maybe that person was better at like logging that sort of stuff and everyone else just kind of didn't.
Yeah. Well, so this is also a little bit damning because Quantic Dream actually, when the story broke, Quantic Dream sued a bunch of French publications who printed stories about how shitty it was as like that's liable. And this seems to be more of a mark in like, I don't know. It's always really not a great thing to hear. Because, you know, you and I just got done playing Detroit, and I really enjoyed Detroit.
I did too.
It really sucks whenever you hear bad stories about, because you're like, well, what do I, do I like not play Quantic Dream games anymore?
I mean, I've heard horror stories from people that worked at Rockstar.
Oh, yeah.
Firsthand, and everyone's still gaga over that Rockstar madness.
Hell, Team Bondi, the team that made LA Noire, was like infamously bad. Where like if you quit,
and they made LA Noire.
Yeah, if you quit, the guy took your name out of the credits.
Oh,
yeah.
what a dick move!
And that game took like 6 or 7 years or something like that. And so like if you worked there for like 3 years and then you left, it was just like
you're off the credits.
Fuck you on your way out.
What a douche.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would rather those workers have better work environment than have another game from David Cage.
Yeah.
But I'd also be very disappointed at not having a game by David Cage. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So
I think that it's
get your shit together, Cage.
That's right, Cage. Get your shit together. It's also worth pointing out that even though this has come up, I don't know how it is, but there's been nothing that I've seen recently that indicates that like working conditions in the video game industry have gotten any better, that they're still doing horrible crunches.
Yeah.
Like, God, all you got to do is look to like Activision, or is it Activision? No, it's EA, who they what they love to buy a studio, get them to make a game, and then as soon as the game is done, they disband the studio and spread some of the employees around, but then fire a bunch of other people.
We absorb it, and then we shit out what we don't need anymore.
Yeah. So, I mean, the video game industry in general seems like it's kind of a shitty place to work.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I've never met anybody that worked in the video game industry that was happy, except independent people.
That was one of the reasons when I worked for a video game studio why I quit, was because I basically got I was as upfront with them as humanly possible when I got them as like, hey guys, I'm going to school. And so I will
they're like, that's cute.
I will work here, but I'm going to school. So like if it's a choice between going to class to have a better future or like coming to work at this kind of menial job that pays okay, I'm going to school.
Yeah.
And then it was like I started talking to them about like, when crunch time happens, like I ain't doing that. I'm going to have homework, right? I'm going to have art projects that I need to do for school, and I am not going to sleep under my desk and work 18 to 20 hour days for 3 months for crunch time. Like, I'm just not going to fucking do that. And they're like, well, well, we can see what happens. And I was like,
let's see when the time comes around.
No.
Yeah.
I am not going to do that. So if I need to quit, like you guys could tell me now and say la vie, bye-bye. But anyway, so speaking of old lawsuit stuff and bad practices and stuff that I don't like, Nintendo is at it again. They basically, so for anybody who doesn't know, Nintendo is one of the most litigious companies when it comes to their ROMs of their games being put online.
Yeah.
So if you're hosting Nintendo games, Nintendo is not a fan of that, and they will come after you.
They're very busy lawyers.
Yes.
They have a team of douches.
So they basically brought some charges against 2 different ROM distribution websites that could add up to well over $100 million per website for loveroms.com and loveretro.co. Let's see. Love ROMs basically turned off all of their Nintendo products from their page, and then Love Retro just shut themselves down.
Yeah.
But this brings up a thing that I just absolutely love to talk about, which is I don't have any fucking sympathy for you if there's no legal way for me to play the games.
Yeah.
Right? Like, yes, the Super Nintendo SNES Classic is a thing. Yes, the NES Classic, kind of a thing. I still can't get one of those. I've been trying to get my hands on one of those. But, like, yes, those are things. But, like, let's say I want to play Asti and X, right?
Uh-huh.
The NES version of Rygar, maybe, right? Like, that's not on your store, and it's not in your it's not on the NES Classic. So, like, what is it, where am I supposed to legally obtain this? Your answer to that seems to be that I need to buy a Nintendo Entertainment System and then purchase the actual cart for that game, which I consider to be kind of ambulance and fire department, actually.
Okay.
Just rolled up outside of my house.
Yeah, sorry, we just hear big trucks, and I was super worried that somebody was going to tow my car.
No, it's it looks like ambulances and firemen are breaking news here in the game industry. Outside of Jeff's house, some shit's going down, y'all.
Yeah, this is like the time we were playing that VR game. We heard an explosion.
Oh yeah. It was like a giant.
I'm here for all the fun stuff.
Power substation explosion. Anyway, I kind of feel like Nintendo to me is the worst offender for this because they fucking love to sell you the same old Nintendo game over and over and over and over again. Like, hey everybody, The Legend of Zelda now on the Nintendo Switch, only $4. It's like, do you know how many fucking times I bought The Legend of goddamn Zelda? Like, quit trying to sell me Zelda, or at least sell me
it's like they only want you to think that they only came out with those classics and nothing else.
I would be, if they had a platform, like if they launched an online platform that was like, give us $20 a month and you can play any NES or Super NES game, and I'd be like, yeah, okay, sure, I will do that. Or if they're like, the SNES Classic is $100 and it has every Super Nintendo game on it, and I'd be like, I'm more than happy to do that.
Yeah.
But I hate the way that they feel the need to do this stuff. It's like they pretend like they're special, and it's like, you're not fucking special. Like, just let me play your games, Nintendo. I'm willing to buy them legit, but like, quit being an ass. Quit being an ass about this.
Agreed. Don't be an ass, Nintendo.
Speaking of being an ass, let's talk about Microsoft. We got some rumors this week about a new Microsoft console that is potentially launching soon.
Oh, shit.
It's called
Xbox XX.
It's codenamed Scarlet. There's actually two different hardware things that have been rumored. All this is rumor, but this is really interesting because one of them is just, I think, a refresh for the Xbox One or Xbox One X, right? Mm-hmm. It's just a hardware refresh, whatever. The other one is a box devoted to streaming games. So, you know, that thing that I don't know if we've ever talked about it. They're doing it on the Switch for Resident Evil 7, where it's like Netflix for video games, where you essentially press right on the stick, and that it's not rendering the game on your console. It's like a Netflix stream,
right? Except
that it's also shoving your controller input back to a server.
Would that not have a lag?
Yeah, traditionally, yes. They all have a lag. So PlayStation Now is the PlayStation bought a company called Gaikai. And that was doing the streaming for Asia. They use it for PlayStation Now, which lets you play PS3 games on the PlayStation 4 with a subscription service. There is a lag, which is the reason I don't like it, because it's okay for like RPGs, but for like an action game, it's infuriating, right?
Yeah.
But the news about this is there's two really interesting parts of this. One, apparently there's going to be not a full Xbox full of hardware, but like enough hardware on your Xbox to do like collision mapping and some amount of the game processing. And then they're using, you remember when the Xbox One was first announced with the whole cloud thing where you're doing computations in the cloud, is that's another part of it. So it has to be online. Some of it is streaming from a server. Some of it's running on the box. So it has some hardware, but not a whole console.
This sounds like it would create more lag. It's like, also it doesn't have any lag. And it's like, right, but now it just sounds like you have 3 different pipes it's going through.
Yeah, but, well, so some of it, because I guess it's not that the different pipes, it's that different computations are happening in different places, and it's all stitched together for you at the end. Mm-hmm. And the reports have said that this has like lag comparable to like an online multiplayer game, that it's
so
fast,
frustrating.
Well, I mean, like a normal online multiplayer game. So that it's not noticeable. That they think they've overcome it to a point where they're doing enough locally that instead of relying on the entire thing happening on the back end, you're doing intermediate steps to basically keep the amount of things happening off the system to a minimum, so that you can still do it. If this all works, I think that's incredible. I think that streaming stuff like that is like the goddamn future. It's just the problem is that we have terrible internet in this fucking country.
Yeah, garbage internet.
But if Microsoft can make that work, like if they can give you an Xbox One X experience for say $200, like that's pretty significant, right? Yeah. If you can play the new Call of Duty and you can play it online and you can play it in super high res and it looks all good and shit, but you're playing on a console that's cheap and you just have a subscription service to Microsoft, I mean, that's an interesting game changer. That's some different shit. So
yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to see how that changes the way things go from then on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I feel like with enough, if they were able to launch something like that and it got a large enough player base, that they could then use the data from that to essentially refine all of those techniques into maybe their next console, which because Microsoft right now currently has the Microsoft Game Pass where like you pay $15 a month and then all of the first party Microsoft games, you just get them.
Yeah.
So if Microsoft, say, moved into whatever the next generation is with not a more powerful box that sits under your TV, but some kind of streaming solution, that in and of itself has the problems of, you're going to cut out anybody who's got shitty internet, which, okay, but I feel like we're less and less in that camp. Like when the Xbox One was first announcing, it was like, you have to be online all the time. And I was like, what about people who have shitty internet? And it's like,
good luck. Bye.
Fuck them. Like, we've got the Xbox 360 for that,
but
right?
let's hope that this kind of thing would pressure companies into letting us have better internet. If everything's going to streaming, you can't throttle us down like this anymore.
Well, of course you can.
Yes, you can.
The companies, the poor companies need money, Amanda. Amanda, they have to make more money. All right, they don't make enough money.
Frustrating.
They have to be able to charge you more to get on the fast internet.
I just want you to know that I'm not screaming as loud as I usually do because I'm worried that the fire department outside is going to be like, this lady's having a crazy heart attack.
Yeah. I think that's somebody having a heart attack, right, or something like that. Anyway,
maybe somebody fell down the stairs. You don't know what happened.
It's possible.
I don't. Do you?
Possible. This is really interesting. So if it ends up happening, I think that's a really cool thing that I would like to see in the future. Let's see. From there, let's talk a little Overwatch.
Yay! We never talk about this.
Yep. Overwatch is having people from Overwatch, specifically Gaguri from the Shanghai Dragons and Jake from the Houston Outlaws, are going to Switzerland to take part in a forum about esports that is actually being hosted by the IOC, the International Olympics Committee, and the Global Association of International Sports, to basically kind of like get esports talking to people from like regular sports.
Yeah.
Now they also are having it's not just them, it's also Mark Rain, the president of Epic, Mike Morhaime, the co-founder of Blizzard, and then I think there's like one other person who's there. So some big names from esports.
Yeah.
Again, we had it was either last week or 2 weeks ago where like ESPN is going to be airing the Overwatch finals.
Right.
I really love the idea of getting esports as a mainstream thing.
Yeah,
because
for sure.
My God in heaven, I could sit at a fucking sports bar and finally watch a sport on television.
Like, yeah, turn it up.
Like, go Houston Outlaws! Houston! Wow! Be that irritating asshole that everybody at a sports bar is.
Know all their stats and shit. See, he's like, this guy over here, he mains as May. We don't like him.
Well, no, fuck May. Fuck May.
That guy's a Hanzo main. Fuck that guy. Am I right?
Fuck that guy. Hanzo.
Like elbowing guys that are just trying to have conversations with their buddies.
It's like, hey man, fuck you. Like, what? You play Hanzo?
Yeah.
You go out, you come outside the parking lot. I'm gonna fucking rugger you do whatever that shit is.
100% what Jeff sounds like when he's drunk, by the way.
Well, no, I always tell the story like, okay, one time in my life, I went to the bar by my house, and it was when they were doing Heroes of the Dorm, and they were playing Heroes of the Storm, and they were showing it on ESPN.
Yeah.
And it was on this big, like, projection TV in the bar that I go to.
Yeah.
And so I was sitting there just like, what are you doing with Diablo mid? You don't do Diablo mid. And I was having a great time.
Yeah.
Like, watching this sport.
And because everyone was watching you watch that sport because they were like, why is
it was Sunday, and there was nobody. There's basically nobody else in there. And I'm just sitting there like, ooh. So anything that I can see to get, because I love watching Overwatch, professional Overwatch.
Yeah.
Like, it's great.
Real Overwatch and not our shitty amateur hour.
That's right. Speaking of our shitty amateur hour, guess who's live on the live servers?
The hamster guy.
Wrecking Ball, a.k.a. Hammond. I don't know why they call the character Wrecking Ball. And with that, we got a new trailer that's basically...
He's so chubby!
One of these, like... and then the new character kills everybody in one shot and uses all of their supers, and it's way more effective than it ever has been before. having, we did a video about Hammond where we went and played him. It was really fun. I think he's a really fun character. So I can't wait to get in there and do some stuff. Get some skins and such, because I don't know. We when John and I played it, it was on a server. It was on the PTR, the test server, and
oh my God, he's so cute.
It was everybody was being Hammond.
Yeah,
it was just like every single person
wanted to try it out.
Yeah. So yeah, if you haven't been back to Overwatch for a while, you know what? Maybe give it a shot.
Bobbity boop.
Let's see. Let me check our time. I might start skipping some of these things. Yep, I'm going to start skipping some of these things.
Skip.
If you are going to be playing, speaking of hero shooters, Comcast is once again partnering with Activision to offer early access into the Call of Duty Black Ops private multiplayer beta for Xfinity members, apparently. They're going to get it a few days earlier. I don't know what the fuck I'm supposed to do with this information, but hey, if you've got Xfinity and you're into Black Ops 4, this is like a subset of people that I don't have any. It's like the Venn diagram is just a circle and then another circle somewhere else.
Yeah,
and I'm like, yep, okay.
Enjoy this outside circle.
Are you a fan of Call of Duty Black Ops? Do you have Comcast Xfinity? Well, great. All right, so speaking of new stuff that's getting ready to come out, we got some details about Devil May Cry 5. Bad details that I don't like.
Oh no!
Yeah. Anyway, I'm not going to spend. Well, no, I can't, guys. I was going to say that I'm not going to spend the entire run up to the release of this game bitching about this game, but we all know that's not true.
You would dare lie to them like that?
Checks that my heart can't cash. Apparently, Devil May Cry 5 is going to be all about Nero.
Your favorite.
My favorite.
You love him.
Yep.
We all love him.
Yep. Couldn't be less interested in that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still going to play it. I'll still play it. Whatever. Maybe he'll be less crappy than he was in Devil May Cry 4. I didn't like him in there.
I like your wishful thinking.
Also, there's a third guy who doesn't appear to have any kind of weapons or anything in this picture that we've got.
Maybe his hands are his weapons, Jeff.
Who knows? But we're going to see more on that pretty soon. Also upcoming, Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice. There was an interview with Miyazaki about there's a death mechanic in the game where it's called Shadows Die Twice, because there's a part in the trailer they showed at E3 where the character literally gets killed and then the enemy turns his back on him and he comes back to life and kills the enemy. And apparently this came out of when they originally made this game. It was like people were they were all just dying constantly in the game. And so they decided, rather than trying to adjust the difficulty, that they would essentially make dying into another mechanic. And then they said that they want players to constantly be on the edge, feeling like they're very in danger at all times playing the game.
Yeah.
And I'm like, great. And I wanted to bring this up just because this is the goddamn reason that I'd rather have Miyazaki making something that's not Dark Souls 4. Because Bloodborne already had a bunch of new kind of systems that were different and interesting. I think that sounds interesting, as opposed to just because it's not like you could make Dark Souls 4 and then just completely rewrite all the mechanics to make it faster and more interesting.
Right.
Your fan base would just be like, man, this is a Dark Souls.
Yeah, because they wouldn't do that. They definitely didn't do that for any of the other games.
They definitely did do it for Dark Souls 2. Oh, wait a minute. Anyway.
You guys couldn't see his face, but he looked legitimately upset.
I'm very upset. So, yes, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice seems like it's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah.
From there, let's jump into some trailers. The Commodore 64 Mini that is already out in...
You guys remember the Commodore 64, right?
Europe has an American release date, October 9th. And this is another one of those NES classic... It's like a little keyboard. I don't know if the keys on it actually work or not.
Oh my God, can you imagine?
This teeny
your giant fat fucking fingers trying to type into that shit.
I don't know. It looks like that might be
actually,
big
that's
enough.
Fairly large now that I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
Mini, was that shit giant when...
Oh, yes.
I was not alive when the Commodore 64 was
It was about this
around.
big.
Yeah.
It was the whole computer, and then it had a CRT on top of it.
My parents had a Commodore 64. They didn't think they could have kids, so they were like, we're just going to spend our money on toys. And they were like, they were the family that had, the married couple that had all the cool shit, and they had a fucking Commodore 64. Or something like that. It was definitely, I think it was the Commodore 64.
I don't have enough nostalgia for the Commodore 64 to really
Does anybody?
Yeah, I think that it was bigger in Europe than in America. Maybe I may be totally wrong about that. I maybe think of the Vectrix.
I just feel like the people that would buy that are either old and don't play video games that often anymore. Not that there's like an age limit to playing video games, but probably like older and doesn't play video games anymore, or only getting it because they like 80s shit.
Maybe.
Like,
there was a lot of
weird. I watched Stranger Things and now I want everything that's 80s.
I don't know.
You know what I mean?
I went to computer camp and they had N64.
Oh, Jesus. Could you be less nerdy? Can you tone it down, Jeff? For fuck's sake, we're trying to make people think we're cool.
Hold on, let me push up my glasses. Just yeah.
Are you making fun of me because I have glasses on right now, Jeff?
No,
that's very ableist of me.
Anyway,
that's how you get Jeff to change the subject.
Speaking of nerds, Lara Croft is in Shadow of the Tomb Raider. There's a 9-minute video called "Welcome to Paititi" that has her walking around.
I call it Patiti.
Doing stuff. It looks good. The main issue that I'm having with this is that this is a 9-minute long video, and most of it just has her like walking around like this village.
You don't want to stare at her ass for 9 minutes.
And no.
Okay, well,
one of the things that I was actually kind of weirded me out was when she walks, she's got these two like crampon climbing hooks that just constantly are banging up against the player's leg. And when she runs, it's like they're really awkwardly banging up against
yeah, she's going to have bad blisters. That shit would probably hurt.
Ow. Yeah, because they're like big metal hooks, right?
I didn't even think about it. There's a chicken.
So this is interesting. They had a couple of different kind of interesting things. Mostly, though, this is the part of Tomb Raider that I don't like, where she's getting like a mission to go to a challenge temple to find an artifact. So you've got to get through the death traps in the tomb. See, that's my least interesting part of Tomb Raider to me, is the actual tomb raiding.
Yeah,
that's why I liked the new ones where it was more like survival and less like But apparently
Uncharted-y.
Yes, definitely. You can a few interesting tidbits from this. You can change the vocals so that all of the people in the game speak their native language, because it's like
that'd be cool.
Yeah, an Uncharted like area. She can still understand them, right? Because you actually learn their language by deciphering these things that you find.
Yeah.
The game itself looks good. I mean, it very much looks like an Uncharted game.
Yeah, it does. In the best possible way.
Yeah. They also talked about how there's a variable difficulty for combat, exploration, and puzzles, I believe.
So you can put like puzzles on super easy if you really want it to be just more of an action game.
Yes. And in fact, they actually show the example that they use in here is they have the kind of Uncharted like climbing up a wall thing.
Yeah.
And they say that this has the exploration on.
I mean, that's very Tomb Raider anyway, like classic Tomb Raider. I remember climbing shit all the time.
Yeah, but the main thing is that when this has the exploration on expert, and if it was on normal, they would have that thing where there was like
it glows so you can see,
that tells you where you can jump to. So I don't know. I mean, that's kind of cool. There's a lot of swimming in here.
Which is funny because if it's on like expert, then you're just like jumping against fucking walls like an asshole until you figure out where you can go.
Yep. You're doing that thing with Nathan Drake where he puts his hands up on the walls.
Half runs up and then falls back down. Yeah. That's fucking hilarious. And she gets stuck and dies.
Yeah. Apparently the temple that's in this video is underwater, and so you have to do some kind of breathing upgrade in order to be able to actually do it.
Yeah. That's interesting.
All this looks okay. I guess this looks so much more like old school Tomb Raider, which I was much less interested in than what they were doing with the new stuff. I'm sure that there have been trailers where there's plenty of like combat and stealth and stalking and stuff like that, but it's also, I feel like whoever made this trailer cranked up their contrast to like 1 million.
Yeah.
Like it's super dark.
It's dark and edgy.
But it even ends with just a giant spinning death trap, like saw blade thing, and that's it.
She's like, fuck.
Yeah. Looks okay. We'll see. Yakuza Kiwami 2 is getting romantic this week, as we saw a little bit of Kiryu and whoever this cop lady is. I don't know. I haven't played this game yet.
Lady cop
getting all like going out on dates and soft music and like, ooh,
It's forbidden love.
It is.
Even though it's really funny because she does all the talking and he just kind of grunts a lot.
Yeah.
She's like, "Do you want to go out?" And he's like, "Muh."
Yeah. Kiryu is
not the most articulate man in the world.
He's a bit. I mean, this still continues to show that, Yakuza Kiwami 2 looks amazing, considering that this is basically like a remake of a PlayStation 2 game.
Yeah.
Whatever the engine is that they've been using for Yakuza, Kiwami 0, 6, and now Kiwami 2 looks fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't wait to do more with the Dragon of Dojima. It's really been like over the last year, there's just been like the level of Yakuza in my life has gone from like 0 to like it's my 5th favorite franchise in the world. So from there, we got a trailer for The Occupation, which is a game that I actually thought, this is one of those games where it came out on Steam, but it didn't actually come out. Like, it had a release date,
and
then the date came and it didn't actually go on Steam.
Uh-huh.
This is White Paper Games, who made Ether 1, and this is a 1980s story about a journalist kind of trying to figure out what's going on in Parliament in Britain after a terrorist attack, and they're getting ready to, like, lock down on people's freedoms.
Patriot Act style?
I think so. I don't know. It's apparently 4 hours long, and there's different ways to go through it. I think it looks really interesting.
Yeah.
The art style kind of reminds me a little bit of like We Happy Few with the people.
I was trying to like peg where it felt familiar, but I couldn't like hit it. It almost has like that Telltale wooden look to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely like a We Happy Few.
And then there's some stealth and
yeah, it's like a noirish almost. I want to say spy, but you're like a journalist. So.
Yeah, it's an investigative journalist.
Yeah,
it looks really dramatic,
like a thriller. Yeah,
and cool. And I'm a big fan of any game that can be beaten in 4 hours.
Yeah.
Especially, I'd rather...
Is this one of those where we're going to play, like, 2 parts of it and then go, fuck it, on Patreon, we're just going to finish it?
We're going to finish it. I think so.
Probably.
But then it depends on how many different ways there are to go through it.
Yeah.
And then our last trailer this week.
Yeah.
Guacamelee 2 has a release date, and that is August 21st, not September,
wow.
August 21st. God damn.
I love this trailer.
Fucking time. There's so many. I think that I'm going to have to make an exception that Guacamelee is the only game where I'm going to be cool with the chickens, because there's a lot of chickens in Guacamelee. Yeah. But they're all right because there's also a lot of luchadors.
Please. In Guacamelee, we call them Pollo.
This looks really cool. I can't wait to see.
Yeah, of course. I'm sure you and John are like both hyped over it.
Damn.
Equal hypage.
Fucking.
I can't play it. Makes me sick.
Really?
It's just I always say it, when you change between the worlds, when it rains and it goes up and down, because it actually makes me I'll get motion sickness from it.
Okay. And then before we go on break, we got a few more stories here. Cool stuff is happening. Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice is getting a VR edition on the PC.
Oh man, that would be weird to play.
Yep.
Because of all the then you're fully engrossed in the.
It's not first person.
Okay.
It's like literally they talked about a lot of different. They said that they considered a lot of different ways to do it.
Yeah.
And what they ended up on was that you're essentially anchored behind Senua.
Okay.
And so your viewpoint is like behind her, but then when you to move her left and right, you like use the stick to move forward and back, and then you like turn your head left and right to like turn her, so that it's got some amount of that immersion in it.
You're a puppet master above her.
Yeah, I can only imagine what some of those cutscenes are like, where you get really close to her face, and there's all the whispering going on. That sounds intense.
Yeah, just the Raven main villain that we got to. Yeah. That shit was horrifying, and we weren't in VR. I can't imagine.
Yep, this is gonna be coming on the PC for the Vive and the Oculus Rift. If you already own it on Steam, apparently Steam's getting it for free. It's also going to be launching as a standalone purchase that you can buy if you just want that version.
Nice.
So, continuing to prove that Ninja Theory is fucking badass.
Yeah, they are.
I hope that their
high fives for you. We don't have any money to give you.
I really hope that in 3 years, Microsoft doesn't just fucking use them up and then like dissolve them as a studio.
Bad news bears, bro.
Yeah, I don't. Microsoft isn't as bad about that as like EA or Disney or things like that, but I don't know. Ni no Kuni 2 is getting some free DLC in August. So if you're a fan of Ni no Kuni 2, be on the lookout for that.
Yay.
One of the strangest stories, this is a strange story, Metal Gear Solid 5 is getting an update where if you want to do the invasion of other people's forward operating bases, you can now play as lingerie sniper Quiet when you do that, which is very strange.
Yeah.
Because it's just, I don't know. It's a very strange update. It doesn't seem like it seems like the sort of thing that should have been added into the game like a year and a half to 2 years ago. Yeah. Not like today. Not like this week.
Weird.
Yeah.
Just cause.
And last but certainly not least, oh man, I'm so sad.
Oh no, why?
Because Hitman 2 has a competition. And basically from now until a certain cutoff date, I don't know exactly when that is. I haven't looked at all the things. So if you pre-order Hitman 2,
yes,
there is a Hitman Sniper Challenge.
Right.
We did some videos for it. Okay, so from now up until the launch of Hitman 2, they're basically running a contest where the top 3 people on the scoreboards are going to get put into Hitman 2, the game.
How fucking funny would it be to have you in the game?
I want to be in the game so bad. I love Hitman. I want to be in there, but like those...
Please make this like a Twitch stream thing where you just go live and practice your Hitman.
The thing is that I'm not very good at that. Like, I'm terrible at that sort of thing. No. And so there's no way that I would be able to get close to the top 3. And
not with that attitude, Jeff.
Maybe that's it. Maybe Rage Select is done, and I'm just going to spend the next 6 months getting good at sniper challenge.
Do it. And we all got your back.
I want Agent 47 and bald ass Jeff just like eyeing each other.
Oh my god, that'd be so fucking funny.
I want to be one of the escalation kills so that he has to go and
kill yourself.
Yep, that'd be great.
Jeff kills himself on Rage Select.
Damn, I want that YouTube video name. That's it for the news stories. We're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we are going to answer some questions. So stick around, and we will be back in just a second. Before we get into the questions, so I was going to talk about this briefly for anybody who's fans of Rage Select. I watched an anime last week that I thought was really good.
Yeah? What anime?
It is called Inuyashiki Last Hero. And it is something I had actually seen. It's very well received. And it's on Amazon Prime now at this point. So if you have Amazon Prime, you can watch it. Or not Prime now, just Prime. It's basically like this is the first episode. If you want to watch it, just stop this, go watch it, or skip ahead or whatever. But basically, there's an old man and a kid that are like, it's never really clear what happens, but they're like in a park and like these aliens come and accidentally kill both of them. And then it's not even really clear whether they're aliens, just like something weird happens. And there's like this talking where these intelligences are like we fucked up, put them back together, like make them into, put them, we're not supposed to be killing people here, put them back together.
Yeah.
And this other voice is like, well, all we have is combat drones. That's really dangerous. And the first voice is like, it doesn't matter, we're not supposed to be killing people, put them back together and go. So these two people wake up and they're basically now like weird, like they're robots that have like all these guns that can come out of them. And the old man decides to become a superhero, and the kid is a little bit more of like a
betweener.
Kind of an evil fuck. So, and it's interesting because it's very realistic, and it all takes place like in Japan, but it's not like an anime universe. Like the kid reads Jump magazine and like his best friend is into Gantz, and like they talk about, you know, there's like 4chan as part of the plot in Twitter. It's also really fucked up. There's like a lot of like real like kind of brutal sections of it where like, you know, you remember I was talking about Chronicle before? It kind of reminds me of Chronicle, where it's like it's a very realistic take on like when people get murdered, they get like fucking like killed and shit. So there's also a shitload of crying. Everybody cries all the time in this show.
Did you cry all the time in this show?
At the very end, but it's 11 20-minute episodes. It's on Amazon Prime. If you've got Amazon Prime, I highly recommend it. It's got like a really good rating. It's very pretty. It moves along. Like every episode just keeps on moving. Like I watched it over the course of just like a day because I was just
if it's 20 minutes, it'll like jump right through.
Yeah. Inuyashiki Last Hero. That's Inuyashiki. I recommend it. If you're looking for something, if you're a fan, like I'm not necessarily a big fan of what do they call them? The like shonen series where it's, you know, it's everybody in there going around doing like Naruto or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit more. This is a lot closer to something like, say, Death Note, but with like robots that shoot people, as opposed to, you know, the
teenagers writing to their sad journals.
Right. MailRageSelect.com is the email address. And our first question this week that I should already have up comes in from Daniel. Daniel says, "Hey, Jeff and Amanda.
Yes.
After playing an hour of the new No Man's Sky update, I genuinely got excited again for playing more of the game. However, when I talk to some of my friends, they're still bitter and harbor resentment against Hello Games for how badly the 2016 launch went. While I'm with Jeff on how I applaud Hello Games for continuing to support the game, I can't help but empathize with their feelings. This further led me down a thought examination of my former and existing grudges and grievances against game publishers and devs. For example, I'm still mad at Square Enix over how they treated Deus Ex and Hitman, but I also self-examine and ask myself if I need to move on, not forget that it happened, but not continue to be bitter about it. So I ask all this. What current grievances do you have, and how have you dealt with those grievances over the years? Have you re-examined the past moments of anger/resentment and ended with a different viewpoint? Thanks and take care. Daniel." This is a pretty hefty question that we got.
There's a kind of, grievances.
It's the airing of grievances. So we had the test of strength during the break, but now it's time for the
air of grievance.
I don't like any of you. I'll go first if you want a moment to think about it. I'm in a lot of ways past the point of being emotionally angry at companies like he listed, right? Like Hello Games, or like I'll be disappointed. But for me, I come at it. My personal experience being 40 years old and having played video games all my entire life is that I've been fucked and I've gotten mad, and the developers have done shitty things over and over and over again. And I just can't. There had to be a point where I couldn't just be like, "Get you motherfuckers!" Like I can't just like be mad at everything all the time. So now it kind of comes in as like I have a mental scorecard where it's like I try to reserve. This makes me sound so much like a goddamn robot. Sorry. I was destroyed.
Beep, boop.
I've got a bunch of weapons in me now. I'm just a robot.
They all knew that already, Jeff.
Is that I basically, my default state for everything that I see is like, okay, is I start from a neutral, right?
Yeah.
If a company or a developer or like a movie studio or a music artist or a TV company or whatever has a good track record, then I will kind of allow myself to be like, fucking yeah. Hideo Kojima's making a new game. Like, I like all the Hideo Kojima games. Metal Gear Solid 5 less than the rest of them, but for the most part, that guy has had a solid track record, and I've enjoyed all the things that he has put out in one way or another. So when I see Death Stranding, I'm like, yes. The same with Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice, right? Miyazaki has had a great run with Demon Souls, from Demon Souls all the way up to Dark Souls through Bloodborne and all that stuff. I've enjoyed all those games immensely. So Sekiro basically gets I'm going to buy it on day one. Super excited, really interested. On the other hand, let's take, for example, Detroit with David Cage.
Right.
David Cage has a more rocky record with me where I'm like, I don't know. Like, some of your things are cool, but then a lot of times you have a reputation in not like a industry reputation, but like for Jeff's reputation of fucking it up a bunch of times, right? Where it's like, oh, this seems really cool. Oh, now you fucked it up.
Oh, there it is.
There it is. There's a David Cage fuck up. So when Detroit was in development, I wasn't just like, yeah, fuck yeah, Detroit. I was just like, I don't know. Yeah. On the like, say for the third hand.
How many hands do you have, Jeff?
So many hands.
I got all the hands.
I got so many hands.
Jeff's an octopus. I don't know if anybody ever told you guys.
Mm-hmm. Yep, octopus on the drums. Black Ops 4, I feel 0 for, because I'm just like, the Call of Duty series has been not for Jeff and fucking around in a bunch of ways that I don't especially like. And then when they say, oh, we're doing Battle Royale and we're not doing a story mode, and I'm just like, well
that's less Jeff than ever before.
Right. Like, this is the
Your
least...
not Jeff game got less Jeff in it.
Right.
Yeah.
So I generally tend to... Now, with Hello Games, it's interesting because I actually watched a YouTube video of somebody that was like... Sean Murray, apparently recently there was an interview with him where he finally he said, like, I wasn't looking at all of the hype for this game when it was coming out, and I assumed that most people were just watching our trailers and they were going to play the game, that people weren't like obsessing over every single thing that I said in every single interview.
Yeah.
And so when the game came out and there was all this backlash, I was kind of like, where the fuck did all this come from? Like, we showed you these things, and we overstretched a little bit, but like a lot of video games show you stuff that isn't in the final version of the game.
Yeah, all the time.
Lie or whatever.
Yeah, that's basically what E3 is.
Right, and I think that this whoever it was that I was watching, it was just one of these people that does daily kind of news things.
Yeah,
was like, so he finally admitted, that he fucked us, but like that's not enough. Like that's not enough of a make good. And I'm kind of like, I don't know. It goes back to a thing, and I don't want to get too far down this path, that you and I were talking about in one of our Patreon videos about James Gunn and about redemption and about things where, like, I feel like Hello Games has made a good faith effort to be like, we launched this game, maybe they always planned on having these giant updates, and they were just like, we had a launch window, so we put together what we had and we put it out.
Yeah.
Like, Sony had the pressure on us to launch this as a $60 game because they were going to be publishing it. They wanted it to be $60. Who knows? I don't really know the details to that.
Right.
But that I played No Man's Sky. You and I are actually, when we get done recording this, going to record No Man's Sky. I feel like what we have now is a dramatically different game than what came out at launch.
Yeah.
And that none of that has been paid. None of those updates have been paid. Like, so I look at it and just go, well, if this isn't enough, then there's no such thing as enough. And if there's nothing that Sean Murray can do to rebuild his reputation to you, then why should he even try? Why should he just take your money and all of them are going to fucking retire? And, 2 years from now, they're going to put out another trailer that looks hype for a new game.
Yeah.
And you're just going to be like, yeah, instead of spending 2 fucking years working on a game that, I mean, at this point, No Man's Sky is $30. It's half the retail price.
Yeah.
And it's not like the people that bought it before are going to buy it a second time.
Yeah.
So they've been doing a lot of this based on just the money that they had. Like, they haven't been bringing in new money outside of, I guess, people that buy it every time there's a big update to see, like, oh, maybe it's
how
cool
it is.
now.
Yeah.
So for me, I have stacked it up over the years into a, like, I look at the people, I look at, sometimes a thing is just cool looking enough that I'm just like, wow, I'm really excited. Like what was the Russo brothers show,
Deadly Class?
that we saw, where I'm just like, that looks cool. Like, I am interested and I'm willing to give it a shot. Whereas, like, Aquaman, like, in a vacuum, looks pretty cool, but like DC has a record with me right now to the point where I'm like, I don't know, it looks cool, but like, you've made a bunch of other things look cool and they weren't cool. So I'm going to be like, maybe we'll just wait and I'll reserve. And then, you know what? If it comes out and it's great, I get to be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
And if it comes out and it's garbage, then I haven't just been like, oh no, I was fucked again by Warner Brothers.
Got me again.
So that's kind of where I stand on a lot of this stuff. But I'm generally a fan of, if you're trying to do good, that I'll try to give you some leeway to do good.
Yeah.
But
I find it's easy for me to avoid that level of like disappointment by not I don't do it a lot with video games anymore because I just don't have a lot of emotional attachment with a lot of video games at this point. But I the last time I did it, I fucked myself over by getting too in depth on the Stephen Moffat seasons of Doctor Who. And when you sit there and look like a fucking crazy person with like note cards of like this happened then, but the timeline says, and then like Amy Pond was here, but then there, and then she's also a person made of clay. It just and then he's like, the doctor lies, and then that's like the whole plot of it, and it just like throws away a lot of the threads that they gave you for storyline, and it was like the most disappointing thing in the world. The most disappointing idea of it was that I did it to myself. He never did it to me.
Right.
I sat there and tried to piece it together. I also like
he did it to you a little bit. Moffat's bad about that.
Yeah, he
kind of Abrams mystery box, and then it just turns out to not be.
And then he feels like, ain't I a stinker? And it's just like, no, but I like wanted something.
No, you suck.
No. It turns out you just didn't know how to write a story. So it that was like the last time that like killed it for me. And so now I don't really get too emotionally involved in things in that wide of a scope of that. Like I'm never in the universe of anything. I'm no longer like Doctor Who is my life, or like, you know, I'm never going to be that person that's like all Harry Potter all the time,
right,
or whatever. I just can't. So it's pretty easy to avoid those kinds of like, I don't feel. My disappointments are always like, I would have liked to seen another season of this TV show, but it's gone now and it's dead to me, and off it went. And like, I could just go back and watch those old episodes or hope that something else comes out that is similar to it. One of my most favorite TV shows is Almost Human. That was a Fox show.
Carl Urban.
Kind
of Blade Runner-y. Kind of Detroit Become Human a little bit. Yeah,
and so like I wanted something that was like that, and I never got it after that. It was like it was just perfect for me. It was like a great cop drama while simultaneously being set in the future and having androids. That feel. And then we played Detroit Become Human, and it felt like that. Even the Marcus looks like the android that Carl Urban is partners with. Yeah. It's not the same actor, because I looked it up because I was just like, holy shit. And so it's just like I just avoid I just wait until other people do something similar, because no idea is 100% original. So eventually you're just gonna find that version. If you really missed Ghostbusters for a long time, Evolution came out, and that is a Ghostbusters movie. Like there's always something else that does that. I don't know. So I've never.
You know what? I feel like another big one that maybe this question taps on for me is Star Wars. So you know, as a kid, I really liked the Tridge, right?
As you do.
The prequel trilogy, I kind of liked a little bit. Like there was a lot of just like emotion from my childhood about like, look, it's fucking R2D2. What? Like I'm seeing R2D2 on the big screen for the first time in 20 years. What?
Yeah.
But I've come to just kind of sour on the whole Clone Wars universe and the prequels.
Yeah.
So then when the new ones come out and people are like, oh no, you've ruined all my love for Star Wars, and I'm like, I already fell out of love with Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
I'm now like, Star Wars is on an installment by installment basis where like I watched episode 7, it was okay, I kind of liked it. I watched Rogue One, I did not care for it. When episode 8 came out, I watched it and I really enjoyed it, but I had zero expectations walking in there. And then Solo came out and I didn't bother because I was like,
not for me.
Well, no, it could be for me, but I don't care enough about it to go see it in the theater. I'm just going to wait for it to come out on home video, and then I'll watch it there. Like
me too. I still haven't seen any trailers from it.
You thought you were avoiding of the trailers, then you never went to see it in the theater.
Yeah, and I didn't have to. I didn't have to worry. No one spoiled anything for me.
Right.
Because the people that watch it were just like, it's all right.
Yeah.
And there's nothing. Apparently, it wasn't meme worthy, because a lot of the reason I get spoiled is because people take the ending of something, cough, Infinity War, and turn it into a meme.
Yep.
Sorry, if you're posting pictures of people pixelating into nothing, it's a spoiler, douchebags. It just, it bothers me. But
It's not quite as bad as Hail Hydra, but you know.
Hail Hydra was real bad.
That was a real bad one.
But
that one happened to me from the people on my Facebook feed that were movie reviewers that went to see it before it was even out.
Yeah. And they
was like
we got into actual online arguments. Me and John both got into actual online arguments about whether or not that was a spoiler. And they were just like, no, it doesn't, you don't understand it in context. And it's like, do you fucking think I don't understand the context of
I know what
Hail
Hydra is?
Fucking Hydra? I wore a Hydra shirt to see that movie because I was so pissed. But going back to the Star Wars conversation, do you feel like that makes you enjoy the ones that you like more?
Yes.
Because I feel like it does.
Yes. I have watched untold hours of people nitpicking the fuck out of episode 8, and it's the worst, and Rian Johnson should be shot into the sun, and Catherine whatever fucking Kennedy or whatever, the lady that's running, that she's like the worst SJW feminist, should be thrown to a pit of acid, and like, why you keep trying to make us like porgs? And I'm just like, I don't have any of these fucking problems.
Yeah.
Like, I think a lot of it was the fact that I went and I watched it and I was just like, oh, I really enjoyed that. I would like to watch it 3 or 4 more times. And then I think now it's on Netflix. I haven't watched it since it's been on Netflix.
Yeah.
I've watched Thor Ragnarok more because Thor Ragnarok is an easier watch. It's just like, fucking Jeff Goldblum and here's Led Zeppelin and it's Hella.
Of course,
right? Whereas I've watched untold videos on YouTube of people just like, let me explain to you why the rules of storytelling have been broken and Rose is the worst character. And I'm just like, fucking Jar Jar. How? That's the one that gets to me the most is when people are like...
people are like apologizing about Jar Jar. Have you seen that?
Yes.
Because that poor actor that played him.
Yeah.
He came out and said like he was suicidal during that time when everyone was like, fuck Jar Jar. That was him.
Right.
And they were literally like bashing him. They did to him what they're doing to every female that's been in a Star Wars movie, except Carrie Fisher.
I still don't understand why people they hate Laura Dern so much. I'm just like,
I went to a party at Randy Lander's house and I literally started yelling at some guy because he was just like, well, women and the leader, because she's a woman. And it's like, did you not watch it? That this guy who literally destroyed their entire bomber squad decides he deserves to know what's going on. He wasn't even a fucking captain or anything. He's like, the fucking janitor's like, I think I deserve to know what's going on here. No, you fucking don't. Who the fuck do you think you are? But she was a woman that said it. Like, Jesus Christ.
Yep. No, I mean, no.
Holy shit.
There's so much of it that, I don't want to get too far into the Star Wars.
I'm sorry, Daniel.
No, it's all right. It's all right. Is that I just dragged up Laura Dern because I'm just like, I don't even understand where you're coming from on this. It's just like, this fucking purple-haired Tumblr. I'm like, what?
I think it is
Tumblr?
Very unfortunate that she is all pink or like purple, like lavender.
But she's just got purple hair.
No, her whole dress is the same color.
It's
an unfortunate thing, but I didn't think I
went back and it's almost like the amount of thought that was being put into this. Like, I get so irritated at people who are like, that's not how space works. And I'm like, bitch, none of this is how space works.
I only know how space works based on what Yoda tells me. So how dare you? That tiny frog man.
Like, none of this is how...
hang on.
None of it is how fucking space works.
How is it like same breath are you like, they're forcing porgs down our throat. None of this is how space works. It's like, stop it. Jesus.
So to go back to the question, and so this is the reason why I'm not. You know what? If this is the last thing I'll say about Star Wars before we can move on. You can say whatever you would like about Star Wars before we can move on.
Fuck Star Wars.
But like the people on YouTube that make these hour-long essay videos about how Episode 8 is the worst, like, I can still go back and watch the Plinkett reviews of the prequel stuff.
Oh yeah,
and they're so well executed. Even all the dumb serial killer shit that's in there that's not good, but like the points that he makes about story and stuff are so much more like cogent and well executed. And then every time I watch an episode 8 video, I feel like it's people that are just like, allow me to get out my nitpicker and start picking out nits. There's a nit. I found another nit over here. Here's another nit.
Well, it's almost like they want to not like it.
Yes, I don't.
But to go back to my point of following your Star Wars point was just to say that I feel like I enjoy it more because I don't feel such a weird like putting it up on this pedestal of perfection.
Yep.
And I feel like that allows me to enjoy what I enjoy. And it also allows me to not try to force like something either, where I don't feel like we did when the first prequel came out, where everyone kind of had that like, no, it was good. It was like good. It wasn't like as good as zero, but it was
that
good.
Lightsaber fight, like Duel of Fate. Hey, Darth Maul,
Ewan McGregor is a good actor.
I like Liam Neeson.
But so you don't have to do that anymore,
right?
And so I can enjoy or not enjoy something because of it.
Also, it's worth pointing out that I feel like in a lot of times, in a lot of ways, in today when we do this stuff, it ends up being a very binary conversation, and I can think that a movie is okay and enjoy it just fine and be like,
that's how I felt about the female Ghostbuster movie.
That's how I felt about
it bothers me that people are like garbage, and I'm like, no, I've seen garbage.
About the Equalizer, which I enjoyed, but like I watched it one time and I don't think I'm ever going to watch it again, and I'm like, it was all right. Like
every modern Sylvester Stallone movie,
I don't think
like anything that's come out like in the 2010s, they're always like okay. They're never like horribly insulting, but I enjoy watching them. Or if they're on TV, I'll sit through them. But it's never anything that I'm like, another Rocky. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, and to bring that up, for me, it's also a large spectrum, right? Is that I thought that Creed was a good movie. I didn't think it was the best movie I've ever seen.
Yeah,
like I watched it a couple times, and I'll go back and I'll watch the fighting at the last quarter of the movie that's just the boxing match. Spoiler alert, the last quarter of the movie is a boxing match. It's a fucking Rocky movie, right?
Yeah, if you're watching a Rocky movie and you're like, this movie has too much boxing in it, you should cut it out. Get out of here.
But there's levels to it. And then that goes in the opposite direction as well, about there's some places that I'm like, the last movie was okay. And that's one of the reasons why my DC stuff is kind of all over the place, where like, I thought that Justice League was like on the upper tier of the bad spectrum. Like if you imagine a vertical line, and in the middle is nothing, and at the top is great, and at the bottom is garbage.
Almost at nothing.
It's almost to the middle.
Yeah.
Like it was like less insulting than a lot of the other movies.
It wasn't infuriating. It didn't garner anger.
So I'm like, okay, well that's brought you to a place where I'm like, again, I can watch the trailer for Titans and be like, this looks like that bullshit, but I can watch a trailer for Aquaman and be like, I don't.
You know what it is? I don't know what you guys said about the Titans thing, but you know what it is? It's fucking Riverdale. Riverdale.
I haven't watched Riverdale.
Right, but Archie and Josie and the Pussycats and Jughead and Betty and Veronica, they were like lighthearted, like popcorn, adorable, 50s style, lovey-dovey, whatever. And then Archie is this like dark murder mystery.
Riverdale?
Yeah, sex with a teacher and shit. And I feel like Teen Titans is like something that people now envision as a very like young, youthful, fun, like happy-go-lucky, whatever. But teen shows now are really dark.
Yeah.
So then they're just Riverdale-ing. They're supernaturaling.
So you're saying that the people that watched like Teen Titans have now become teenagers, and teenagers like their shit edgy.
No, I think
edging it up.
I think DC thinks that.
Yeah.
I don't think that's actually what their audience is.
Okay. That makes sense. All right, let's move on. We're only going to get like 2 questions in this week, because this one also has a really...
Holy shit.
Yeah, I know. All right,
That's very long. All right.
Okay, so... but this is a very good question, and then a big comment about something that I previously said. So, and I read it, and I'd like to read it because I feel like it's worth noting. This comes in from Blau. Blau says, Jeff and Amanda, I need someone to vent to, and none of my friends played Far Cry 5, so I'm hoping you'll read this.
Okay.
Did you see the end of Far Cry 5? This is about the end of Far Cry 5. There were 2 endings to Far Cry 5, right?
I think I've seen one of them, yeah.
Okay. I finally understand the rage that people felt at the end of Mass Effect 3. Granted, the ending was fine, and really people had nothing to complain about. The ending was foreshadowed, though. through the entire series. I don't know about that. I think that the DLC, it depends on whether you had the DLC. Anyway, I just finished Far Cry 5. What the fuck? Without giving too much away, I know you have a trigger about spoilers. I don't know if I'd call that a trigger. I just policy. But basically, everything you do in the game is for nothing, and the ending comes out of the blue. It has nothing to do with the actual plot. It gives you 2 endings to choose from, both of which are terrible. You have to choose which bad ending you want.
Yeah.
I'm all for having downer endings, but this one just threw me for a loop, as the entire game is foreshadowing the ending, giving you a clear picture of what's going to happen, and then when it comes, it takes a 90-degree turn in another direction, left me feeling pissed off that I invested so much time. Has this ever happened to you? Did you even make it to the end of Far Cry 5? Thanks, and that's from
I did
Blau.
see the ending of Far Cry. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the other ending? I'm trying to think.
There's two. There's one that is like, what? There's a second one where it's like, oh, this is the good ending, and then right at the very end, it's
okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This is another bad ending. Technically, the good ending for Far Cry 5 is for you to turn around and not arrest
at the very beginning.
Joseph Seed at the very beginning of the game. And it's like, go fuck yourself, Far Cry 5. And apparently, the what ending is like foreshadowed throughout the game if you listen to like the radios. But I'm like, who the fuck is listening to the radio? Like, it would have been one thing if they had like a Saints Row style like boombox where you could listen to the radio while you were just walking around the world.
Yeah.
But like, I didn't use the vehicles very much, and I like when I came across a radio in a house, I didn't want to just like stand there. And listen.
It would have worked better if you had a character that was the like local radio DJ that had some kind of way of hearing what's going on in the outside world and was your informant.
Yes.
That was someone that you enjoyed listening to.
Yes.
Or
if there'd been any amount of foreshadowing through the mission structure of the game.
Yeah. I mean, it's there, but it wasn't enough that you're like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Like this is a thing or something. Yeah. What was the question? Because I was just thinking about the different endings.
The question was just like, has this happened to you? You know, has it happened to you seeing an ending that just kind of comes out of nowhere and you're just like, what the fuck? And then did you even make it to the end of Far Cry 5? I did make it. Wow, I appreciate you writing into the story and everything. We did a full-on review of Far Cry 5 like the week after it came out on the back half of the podcast. But yes, I did. I did not enjoy what happened. I feel like Mass Effect 3 kind of falls into that category of just like, what? Just kind of... When you have the Leviathan DLC, I feel like it comes out of nowhere, or it comes out of nowhere less.
Yeah.
But...
It softens it.
When you've played all the way through all 3 of those games, it just felt really weird. It's kind of like at the end of what was it, Deus Ex Mankind Divided, where there were literally like 3 levers.
Yeah.
And your choices were pull one of these levers or like walk out the door, and it was kind of like, okay. I mean, I understand you're basically asking me which ending I would like.
Yeah.
But
I don't know if I've ever felt that way about an ending.
Yeah.
I didn't even feel that way about the original Mass Effect 3 ending. I didn't play through 1, but I did 2 and 3. And it felt more lazy than it did like disappointing, ruined the entire rest of the experience or anything like that. It was just like I don't know, kind of like the Lost. Everyone came up with a better theory than what it actually was.
Right.
And it's just kind of that.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of other, I mean, like there's, I'm trying to think of, there have been plenty of twist endings in like games and movies and stuff that I like. I'm trying to think of any that I thought were just like monumentally disappointing.
But I will say about the Far Cry 5 ending, so there's the, I guess the what the fuck ending, and then there's the other one that's like it seems like it's a good idea until the very end of it.
Mm-hmm.
I liked that ending.
Okay.
It doesn't, because I don't require a happy ending to be a good ending. Not that I'm implying you do, but just that to me, that level of a downer where you get that moment of where you're like, okay, this might actually like work out. This is the end. And then it goes, haha, fuck you. No, I kind of liked it. Because that whole game kind of felt like that to me.
Okay. I feel like
that felt more foreshadowed. Like they built that up.
There's a part at the very end of that game where when you're getting ready to go into where you're deciding whether or not you're going to go into the final battle and which ending you're going to get, where the main antagonist is like, don't you see, you're the real monster here? And it's like the game never made that case. It was like, you're fucking drugging people and kidnapping them.
Yeah.
Like, please stop trying to get on any kind of fucking moral high horse. And the thing is that the what the fuck ending then tries to justify what they were doing, but with no foreshadowing. There was no way for me to know that you weren't just fucking drugging people and then brainwashing them and then putting them into a weird suicide bunker with your crazy fucking acolytes, right? So like, nah, bro, like you didn't do a good enough job of getting me there.
Right. It's just in the good bad ending. They're saying, you're going to do what we want you to do no matter what the entire time. They're like, it doesn't matter. He planned this. He knew you were going to do this. Like every time something happened, they would say, just like he said you were going to.
Yep.
And then at the very end, it kind of ties up in a nice bow because it is exactly that. It's another ending where it's just like he said you were going to.
Yeah.
To me.
I don't know. There's a, like, the other problem that I have is that Far Cry 5 is not the place for that sort of existential wandering, right? Like,
I agree.
It's there's a diabetic bear named Cheeseburger that you stick on people, and like
it definitely suffered from like a bipolar, not knowing what it wanted to be,
right?
Like thing. It wasn't enough of either one, which is exactly the problem we had with their DLC.
Yep.
Just didn't know what it wanted to be.
Yep. I'm trying to think of just completely what the fuck endings.
I didn't like the ending of Portal 2.
Really?
No, I'm just being a dick. I watched a thing with Nolan North the other day, and he was talking about how everyone likes the space sphere.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And I was like, no, that's stupid. I love the adventure sphere. And then he was like, my favorite's the adventure sphere. And I was like, yeah, me and Nolan North, besties for life.
Yeah. I'm having a real hard time coming up with one. I don't know. Anyway, let me read this big old second part.
Do the blurb.
So this says, on a side note, you don't have to read this on the show. I just wanted to clarify a point you made, which was inaccurate. This specifically talks to the week when the video game addiction was added to the DSM as a legitimate psychological illness.
Okay.
And I basically said, fuck a bunch of that, because it's just the further demonization of playing video games as a weird fucked up mental illness. Video games to me a lot of times bear a lot of the brunt of the ills of society because they're the newest thing on the pastime. So anyway,
great.
Blau says, on a side note, you don't have to read this on your show. I just wanted to clarify a point you made, which was inaccurate. And so I think this is actually worth reading. I've been on vacation where I could not use the internet. A couple of episodes ago, you made a comment about the inclusions of video game addiction. Your response to it was a little off base and insensitive. I feel the problem is you are looking at it through the eyes of our generation. You and I are 1 year apart. However, people of our age rarely have this addiction simply because we were raised in a different time. Video game addiction is most commonly seen in the younger generations. I work in a school where we've had to report children who do have this affliction and intend to get help for them. It's not scapegoating video games. These kids have been raised with access to technology unlike what we had. They have a portable game system literally in their pocket. You asked about withdrawals. Yes, they do get withdrawal symptoms. They get agitated and have a hard time focusing. We have, in my opinion, further enabled some of these kids by giving them all Chromebooks, which they, of course, do not use to do their homework, but instead use to play browser games or watch YouTube. If we take away the Chromebook, suddenly the phone comes out and they're playing Fortnite or PUBG. Mm-hmm. They can't stop. We've watched kids run at full speed from one class to another just so they can get in 2 minutes of the game time before the bell rings. Even then, some teachers have to spend 3 or 4 minutes once the bell rings getting kids to turn their games off before class can even start. The most common line, quote, "Hold on just a second, I just need to finish this level." We had one student that in one 30-minute time frame turned on his Chromebook 18 times to log into games. I had a student last year who failed his placement exam for math because instead of taking his test on his computer, he had a second window open and was playing Minecraft. Yes, some of this could be seen as an electronics addiction, which I feel is just as serious, but the video games are a major part of it. Addictions to Instagram and Facebook are whole other problems, which we are also trying to address. This is a very serious issue facing our kids today. By acknowledging that it is a problem for some people, those people can get help and start breaking their cycles. So Oh, okay. All that is 100% legit.
I mean, there's been stories on the news of like parents who've let their kids die because they were focused in on playing World of Warcraft, or I mean, WoW is the most popular one, but it
was EverQuest for a while too.
Yeah, I was gonna say I couldn't remember the name of it, but yeah, like you constantly hear stories like people that disappear and it turned out they like are just in an internet cafe,
right?
Forever, like they just stay there.
Yeah, I hope that it makes sense in that yes, I am definitely looking at this from my own perspective. I have zero idea. One, I don't have kids, and two, I have zero idea. It does seem to me, sometimes I try to imagine what it must be like to grow up now where you've never not had the internet. Like I am 40 and it wasn't until my 20s that the internet was a thing. So like for half of my life, a little less than half of my life at this point, you know, like even video games were hell, when I was a kid, the NES, you play games, but like nothing that you could play on your home systems had anywhere near the fidelity of like what you could get in arcades. So you leave your house, go to an arcade. That's necessarily a more social thing. But then there was a lot of like there was just not enough access to these things to be able to do that. Where I was coming from is what I basically just said, which is that I hate when society, whenever there's like, say, a school shooting and it's just like, and those kids played video games. And it's like, you can't just use video games as whatever, mostly because I've seen culture get used as a scapegoat of like, well, it's these violent movies, it's this D&D, it's cable television, it's like rock and roll music, making them into Satanists, you know, like we've been scapegoating youth culture for bad shit for a long time, and it never turns out to actually be the thing. But this, yes, I can definitely see where, especially games that have been made, I feel like in the last 5 or 10 years, we've started to see more and more games made with literal Skinner box mechanics in them, where they're literally using psychological research to make games addictive. Yeah. And they're doing that, and that we currently, either people don't realize it, or it's a weird thing where we're not understanding that they're literally using psychological techniques to addict people to things. But because it's just a Candy Crush, and because most people are fine with that, but then you get the people that are really deep into it. Yeah. And then we're probably going to see more of this happen as time goes on, where you have, you know, a generation of children that have never not had access to.
They just not had a screen in front of them.
Right.
And don't know how to.
And access to games that are based on these one more turn, one more tick, you know, one more doing a thing.
A lot of games just meant to be played within 2 minutes between classes.
Exactly.
So that you can get those 2 minutes between your classes and shit.
Yep. Fortnite on phones is like, that's crazy to me.
I was
like,
shocked. I have a coworker that like I was just fucking on my breaks. I play Pokemon Go because my work is a gym.
Yeah.
And so I literally go and like put my Pokemon on there, and then I'm done. That's it. Like I don't sit there and like fucking. It's not the kind of game that you really sit there and like fucking grind or anything. Mm-hmm. And he was like, my coworker walked up to me and was like, "You playing Fortnite?" And I'm like, "No, I'm on a phone." And he's like, "You can play it on your phone." And I'm like, "Not me." and he plays it on his phone. He'll be on his phone, and they're like, "Oh, who's he texting? I bet he's texting somebody right now." I'm like, "Probably fucking playing that goddamn game."
Playing Fortnite.
Yeah.
Which weird. It's insane to me too, because my viewpoint on this stuff has gotten more and more skewed over the years, because one, I fucking run an entertainment website, right? Yeah. Like, so I'm not exactly a normal person. Like, you're gonna play games on your break? What break? What? Yeah. My job is playing this shit, right? Like
for break, I read books,
right? And yes, and that I have. I mean, like when you talk about Instagram, like. Kids on Instagram, I hear about that all the time. I don't even have Instagram on my phone. I don't even have an Instagram account. Like I don't take pictures of anything. I don't even take pictures with my phone. I use my phone as more of an ebook reader and a text messenger than anything else. That's all I use it for. I could honestly have a flip phone and a paperback, and my life would be very much the same as what it is right now.
Yeah.
I sometimes look
at like more full pockets.
Yes, exactly.
It's uncomfortable.
I look at Imgur from time to time, like just to look at the pictures. But like, you know, a while back I set my phone to grayscale because literally I was reading a thing about how the companies use the bright colors on like the app buttons and the way that apps are put together in order to like get you where like if it's got a red thing and you click on it, that's like there's like a little excitement squirts that happen there, like the way that things are laid out, where they bring up notifications. And so I literally have turned my phone to grayscale to keep that from happening, or to deaden my emotional connection to this piece of technology. And I can say that was a process that happened over a long period of time. I can't expect anybody else to do it, but I think that
you have to consciously be aware of it. And some people aren't, especially like younger people aren't like, oh, you know what I need to do? Stop my screen time. Worry about how much time I'm playing this game or whatever. Like, that's just what parents are telling their kid because they want them to do their homework.
Right.
Like, you know. Yeah. Because I was a latchkey kid and we sat in front of the TV all day. Mm-hmm. We literally just like we knew the time by what was on TV. Mm-hmm. It's a common joke that people will say but it's true, where we'd be like, home improvement's on, mom's on her way home from work or whatever. And people like kids now don't have that problem. Like it's a different thing, but it's the same thing. They're sitting in front of their computer or their console or their phone and they're just doing that instead. It's just a little more extreme because you can take it with you. Yeah. Instead of turn the TV off, mom's home, we got to have dinner or whatever, you just go on your phone. Right. Or you just go on your tablet or you know what I mean? So
there's no break.
Yeah, you don't have to stop.
Right. You can be playing, you can be on your computer and then get up to go to the bathroom, and I do this all the time, and then pull out your phone and then keep going, except for my thing is that I just read books on my phone. Yeah. Because I like to read books. Yeah.
My thing is constant podcasts right now. Mm-hmm. I really like the History Chicks, and I just listen to the history of. I just like listening to people talk about like the history of a person. Okay. That's all.
Have you listened to The Dollop?
No.
Oh, you would love The Dollop.
Is it like that? Is it just like people's biography, basically?
It's two guys. But everybody will. My girlfriend turned me onto it. It's two guys, and one of them does history research. They're both comedians. One of them does history research, and the other one is just there to react to the story. Yep. And so they just tell a story. So like, one of the stories, we actually saw them live, and the story that they told live was, did you know that in like 1915 or 1920 or something, there was an around the world automobile race where they were going to start in, I think it was like New York or Chicago or something, and they didn't know, but they timed it so that when they got to the Bering Strait, it would be winter, and they thought they could drive across the Bering Strait into Russia, and then go from basically New York to like Paris, right? Yeah. And this was like 5 months, and that wasn't possible. So, eventually they had to take a boat, but we're talking about a time before there was like interstates. So they were just like driving through like crops and shit. Yeah. And like the cars were like the Beverly Hillbillies car. Like they didn't have like roofs, and it's a very small windscreen in the front, and there'd be like teams of guys. So they started like in the winter so they could get across the Bering Strait, and so they were like freezing, and they were driving, and there were times where they would get like a mile a day because they were literally like pushing their car through snow drifts and shit. So anyway, The Dollop is great. They do that, and it's well worth listening to.
Nice. Yeah, I'll totally listen to that.
Anyway, yeah. Blau, thanks very much for bringing that up. Again, I'm looking at it from my own perspective. It's definitely there. I just hate it when people use. It's so frustrating to me when video games are an easy scapegoat, because it's like it's still seen as kind of weird for people to like stand up for video games. Like that, you don't see when they talk about like, well, do we know, did they play violent video games? Is that even though it's been debunked over and over and over and over and over again, the idea that it's like you're going to play too much Doom and then you're going to go shoot up a school because you're just like fucking crazy. Like, is irritating, because there's so much to video games, and we've generally gotten over the whole like, oh, you watched Rambo, and so you're going to go shoot up you're going to go shoot a place up. You're going to go kill a bunch of people because you're a crazy person because you watched too many John Wick movies, right? Yeah. Because now there's a perfectly good other one.
If anything, if you're watching a John Wick movie and you're not becoming a veterinarian, I don't know what the fuck's wrong with you.
All right. Those were the two biggest ones. I feel like we got a little bit of time left. We're going to do a few of the shorter ones.
Lightning round.
Will writes in and says, hello, Jeff and Amanda. My question this week is about character deaths in stories and what happens when it is overused. I have not been able to get into two very popular shows, The Walking Dead and Game of Thrones. One of the things that I dislike about both of these shows is that they both kill off characters too often. With characters dying so often, it gives me no reason to get emotionally invested in the characters or learn about them. Why pay any attention to somebody when there's a 90% chance they'll get bumped off before the season is over? Also, when it is used so often, it loses its emotional impact because when a character I do like dies, it doesn't surprise me because everyone's expendable. Plus, I get tired of everyone freaking out on Facebook when one of the characters dies because my internal response is, yeah, a lot of characters are dying here. Did you honestly not expect that? Do you feel the character deaths can be overused in a story? If so, are there any TV shows, games, movies, comics, etc. that do this? Thanks, and that's from Will. I have to personally say that I don't watch The Walking Dead, but on the Game of Thrones tip, I don't get that. Like, I don't really have that whole, like, oh, well, if somebody gets killed, then who cares about any of the rest of the characters?
Yeah.
Like, in some ways, it starts to become morbid curiosity where you're just like, I wonder who's going to get off this season. Like,
yeah.
But in a lot of ways, it's interesting because it keeps you on your, like, it almost makes me more invested because you're trying to project, like, what is going to happen here. Oh, I bet that this is going to happen. And then by completely sideswiping you by killing off a character, which in any other show would be a sacred cow,
yeah.
You're like, oh shit. Like, you can be relatively assured that Captain America is not going to die at the end of the latest Captain America movie.
Yeah.
Or that John Wick, the first John Wick movie started and you were like, oh shit, is this going to be one of those ones where the guy dies? But yeah, the second one, I'm like, I didn't think he was going to get killed at the end.
I was more concerned about his dog.
Right. So I feel like the issue, Will, that I'm having with this question is that we let ourselves be tricked in a lot of ways. Like, if you, let me think, let's go back to the trailers that we watched.
Uh-huh.
I'm pretty sure Jason Momoa is going to be okay at the end of Aquaman.
Right.
But there's still going to be scenes where they're fighting somebody and I'm going to be like, oh no, what's going to happen to Aquaman?
Yeah.
Because I just have to, like, sit back and let myself kind of into the storyline.
Yeah, you have to let yourself get immersed in the experience of watching a film. If you're like, that's an actor and nothing's going to happen to him, you know, like, I get it.
Yeah.
But it's just,
you know what's a good movie about? What's an interesting movie that I feel like people don't know nowadays that did that extremely well? Alien. Because Sigourney Weaver was nobody.
Yeah, she was nobody.
Tom Skerritt was like the big name in that movie, and Ian Holm, right? So having her be the only one that gets off the ship. That was kind of an interesting thing. It's kind of like Psycho, right? Where that was a real hard left turn.
Yeah, I think it's refreshing. Refreshing is probably not the right word, but I think it's good for some shows to have that sort of aspect. My problem with The Walking Dead is less that if you like a character is probably going to die. My problem is that they kind of do a let's see how fucked up we can get things, and like, maybe you should not like any aspect of humanity because we're going to destroy the idea of humanity in this show.
Right.
That's just not my cup of tea. I'm also not going to watch The Handmaid's Tale because I think that it is also made to make me feel real bad about society.
I watched like 2 episodes of The Handmaid's Tale and I was like,
I had somebody like, you should watch it. It's amazing. And I'm like, am I going to be super depressed after every episode? And they're like, yes. And I'm like, what the fuck would I watch that show? I don't watch depressing shit. I'm sorry. But so I feel I had this issue with the comics as well, is that it's just kind of meant to make you feel really grimy and gross by the end of it.
Like Rick. His last name is grimy. Anyway,
jump out the window.
He's still alive, right? He's like the main character of the show, right? Rick?
Fuck, I don't watch the show.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
I watched I first like half of the first season. I was like, it's like the comic book. I don't like the comic book.
Yeah.
Bye. But I think it's interesting, and it allows for a change and a flow in a story that some, especially in like television, it doesn't allow, because you can't lose this character. This is one of the main characters.
Yep.
But if you allow things, God, I can't remember what it's called. John and I watched a Sentai series. I talked about it in one of the podcasts, where it's a Sentai series, but it's really dark and kind of bloody, and it's a Kamen Rider series. I can't remember which one.
Okay.
But it's on Amazon Prime, and it's a fairly recent one, like 2013, 2011, something like that. And they have two guys in suits that are like Power Ranger looking guys, and then there's their team of like special forces people that like help them. And in it, we're watching and we're like, nothing's bad's gonna happen to these guys because they're all the main characters. Whatever,
right?
Move on, and you get a couple of episodes in, and they start dying off or getting seriously injured, and bad things happen to them, and it made it more interesting. And anytime any of them were put in a dangerous situation, you felt something for them, because you realized that you could lose that character. And I think that's good to have in stories.
I think that the example, it's interesting because here's an example about how that worked and then how it didn't work the same way. Is that Serenity, the movie Serenity?
Yes.
First they kill off Shepherd Book, and it's like, okay, well, he wasn't really in the crew. I mean, like, hey, you know what? That's a very emotional scene. Like, he was part of the show. I'm sorry to see that guy go.
Yeah.
But when they killed off Wash, when I was in the theater and that happened, like, I went to see that with my roommate, and she fucking grabbed my arm, and I was just like, and I was like, well, no, obviously not. And it's like, oh, yes, yes. And then, like, when they go into when they're in that room, right, and like, because that happened so quickly right before that end scene, I was just like, fuck, man, who else are they gonna off here? Like, I don't, like, you would never off the cheerful, fun, comic relief, plucky, married, nice guy, pilot guy, and then just like in a second, right after his dramatic, like, triumphant fly down to the planet, and everything was great, and it was like, yeah, we did it, and then just like, fuck you, you did it, like, the best guy on the ship is now dead, and you're just like, what the fuck? Which worked there. Unfortunately, that then meant that in the Avengers, when they killed off Agent Coulson, that I was like, I see what you do, Joss Whedon, because I never watched Buffy, and I think that might have happened on Buffy, but killing off a major character to keep everybody on their toes, I think, is worthwhile, as long as it.
Right,
you're not just also, like seeing it several times.
Also, you literally talking about the Avengers killed the one guy that's not in a fucking Avengers costume. Like, okay, is it gonna be Captain America or guy in suit? I just don't know. Like, come on, Agent Coulson was the most expendable person.
Yeah. But you know, I feel like it could work. I think that though, Will, if I may, I have a lot of this is another thing that kind of came up when I was thinking about Star Wars. Is that I think that a lot of people's enjoyment for fiction is based on their suspension of disbelief, and that there is a point where if you bend suspension of disbelief too hard, it will snap, and that once it's gone, you can't get it back. And then, like, as I feel that, like with Star Wars, it was almost like if you were enjoying it, but then, like, I understand Luke drinking out of that green milk titty and fucking, wiping with that weird look on his face and the big monster. And I'm like, I can imagine that being the point where it's like, that's where it snapped.
Yeah.
And then it was like a domino effect that went all the way back to the beginning of the movie. We're like, wait a minute, were they dropping bombs in space? That doesn't make any fucking sense.
Yeah.
And then like, well, wait a minute. Why is Laura Dern telling the main character what to do? And like, why? Wait, Carrie Fisher died. Why is she flying around? Why didn't they just kill her? And then like suddenly the whole thing falls down, right? And I can imagine watching Game of Thrones and maybe getting to like the Red Wedding and then being like, okay, show, fine, all right, fuck you. Like, they're all gonna die by the end, and I don't give a shit about anybody anymore.
Yeah.
As opposed to like if that pushed you too far, and that snapping point, I feel like is different for everybody, right? So
yeah. I also think sometimes those aren't the right shows for certain people. Like those, I know those shows aren't for me, so I'm not going to watch them. I'm pretty easygoing when it comes to just like going with the flow. Mm-hmm. It takes a lot to fuck my suspension of disbelief. I think a lot of people now.
Prometheus did it. That was the one.
Well, I mean, In fairness, well, I think a lot of people. I've been having a lot of issues with. I've had many rants with some friends about the suspension of disbelief and what I feel like people in general are now too rigid with their suspension of disbelief. There is a very specific line they want to go down.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's Neil deGrasse Tyson's fault.
If anybody's, it must be.
No, but it's his type of people. He will talk about a movie and then explain, and I think it's cool to do this where you go like, oh well, the science behind the idea of this would be this, but he will disprove the science in a movie, and that's great as an educator to tell people like, oh, you're interested in this, let me apply it. But people are applying it as an entertainment value.
Yeah.
And then it becomes, well, my suspension of disbelief because it should be science-based. And again, like Star Wars is the best example of that. Nobody fucking questioned laser swords in the original Star Wars.
Psychic powers. Or magical
powers that came in on Empire. Like no one fucking questioned it. You just let it happen. Or when you question it,
or the Death Star, the existence of the Death Star.
Yeah,
who the fuck? You know how many Star Destroyers you could build for one Death Star?
Yeah, man. Can you imagine just one guy in the next movie? He's just like, we're gonna build a shit ton of Star Destroyers.
Well, the hell, it gets even worse when you go to the fucking Star Killer base, and it's like you turned a planet into a laser. You could have built every ship. You could have built billions of huge Star Destroyers.
One ship.
Right. One
Star Destroyer.
Big fucking fat target. Yeah. One giant fat fucking target.
But, you
could have had more than one dreadnought, bitch. You could have been building a Star Killer base. Good job.
It's just crazy to me, that they don't allow it. I think like fantasy movies are now suffering from that sort of thing. I mean, even superhero movies suffer from it because you have to have some aspect of science that allows for that to be true.
Sure.
And so that's why I'm more excited for movies like Shazam, where it's like fucking magic.
Yeah, whatever.
And you just like let it happen, where it's just very like, I don't know how many montages of spiders biting somebody, and they go, well, some spiders can go invisible and have webs that last 16 hours, and then it's like Spider-Man's webs last 16 hours. It's like, all right, got it. That's neat. Fucking neat. Whatever. I don't need you could have been like spiders have super magical strength powers, and then he got bit by one, and that's it. And then, but they have to be very like specific.
I mean, okay, listen. Yeah, exactly. I was just thinking while you were saying that, like, do you guys, was it like a well-known thing that spiders can like sense things before? What the fuck is spider sense?
Yeah.
Like, it's not like a trope for spiders that they all can see the future very
I think
shortly?
that was just whoever wrote the idea of the spider sense tried to smash a spider and it got out of the way before he could hit it with a newspaper. His spider sense!
And then I saw little black lines, wavy lines coming out of his head.
Little smell lines over him.
Yeah. Anyway, for me, I'm more than willing to. My suspension of disbelief goes way far, and as long as you're fairly internally consistent. Brian Salisbury has a thing that he likes to say where he's like, I don't mind if you set up the most ridiculous rules for your movie as long as you don't break your rules.
Yeah.
Like, if your movie is internally consistent, that's fine. It's when the movie pulls a right-hand turn. Like, again, I hate to keep dragging this out, but like 2 examples from The Last Jedi that I see brought up over and over again are like, well, how is she able to do the thing where she rams the other ships? And it's like, I don't feel like we've ever, like, nobody in the
just because
show,
it hasn't happened in a previous thing doesn't mean it's doesn't make sense in the logic of those films.
Right. And that, like, just because, like, I didn't even, like, nobody even, the only time I think anybody even talked about hyperspace was Han Solo talking about how it ain't like Dustin Crops boy, like in the first movie.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I just don't know that it was a thing where I feel like a lot of people, because their suspension disbelief was snapped when that happened, they're just like, what the fuck? Like, what? And I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, that looks super cool. And it's like quiet, you know? Or even at the end when Luke does his thing, and it's just like, well, that's not a Jedi power. And I was thinking about how, like, does Obi-Wan, if I'm not mistaken, Obi-Wan never moves anything with the Force in the first movie, right?
No, he did mind tricks.
He did the mind tricks, and he fought with the laser sword. That was pretty much it, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like he didn't even use the Force to like turn down the shields or whatever. He like went over there and did that with his hands. So at the very beginning of Empire Strikes Back, Luke Skywalker just starts fucking like he hasn't even been trained. Like Obi-Wan gave him a pep talk and like a mission statement.
Use the Force, Luke.
Right, and
now he's like, now I can do magic, and it's like, what?
Now he's upside down in the Wampa cave, and suddenly he's using the Force to fucking move shit with his mind. Nobody ever seen that before. There, right? Like, where did that come from? Or like when the Emperor just fucking busts out blue lightning from nowhere. Like, no, Vader doesn't use blue lightning. Like, okay, I guess Vader used the Force to like choke that guy, but you could ask yourself, like, was that a mind trick, or was he actually like squeezing that guy's throat, or like what was he doing? So I almost feel like I'm just here to have a good time.
But even then, just because Darth Vader can do it doesn't mean that Luke should be able to do it. And especially because Luke wasn't like there to be like, oh, I could fucking do shit like that with my powers.
Right. So in a lot of ways, I feel like a lot of the stuff about like, well, that's not how space works, and I'm like, well, none of us how space works.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, for me, well, the answer to your question is my suspension disbelief's pretty hardy. So when it takes a lot to break it. Holy shit, we only got through like 3 questions. Sorry, everybody. I'm gonna keep all the questions for next week, but I'm gonna answer this one last one.
Okay.
Because it's one just for
the old Jeffster.
You'll see what happens.
Oh, God.
Good afternoon, y'all. I was glancing at some Instant Pot recipes and the wonder of how awesome it is. And I remember Jeff mentioning on the podcast once about how he almost burned himself using the Instant Pot. Can you please talk about the pros and cons about the Instant Pot, please? Thank you from your eternal Patreon supporter, the quote Grant lover, unquote. Okay.
So thanks for sending this letter, Grant.
Yes. Thanks, Grant. So pros and cons. It's got a lot of pros.
Is the con the fact that you almost burnt yourself?
It's actually kind of difficult to burn yourself.
Then how did you almost burn yourself?
Well, at the very beginning, when you release the pressure, the steam, when you're done cooking.
Oh, did you steam burn yourself?
What'll happen is there's a little knob, and if you push it, and when you first do it, you need to like push, you kind of flick it, right?
Yeah.
Because when it first starts happening, there's like, you can actually put your hand in the steam, which you're not supposed to do, but it's cool by the time it gets about a foot above.
Yeah.
But like right where it's coming out, there'll be like condensation of little hot things that'll come off of it.
Like a volcano eruption. It's
just a little bit. Nothing that would
mini
be weird.
Version.
Also, when you open it, the pot on the inside is very, very hot.
Yeah.
And there's a few recipes that I still haven't figured out how to do where it's like you're supposed to open it and then take the food out of it and then put the food back in, and it's very difficult. I don't have the right steamer for that. Anyway, here, we'll run down real fast. The pros are that, especially if you don't cook, if you don't have a lot of time, and if you don't have a lot of space or a full kitchen, it's a great one-piece cooker, right? So you can do like a roast from start to finish in the Instant Pot without a single other pan, right? You might need a little bit of counter space to put some salt and pepper on it, but like it has a saute function where you basically can heat up the Instant Pot and then you can cook stuff in there. So a lot of times you'll brown your meat first in oil, and then you'll put a bunch of stuff in and you'll close it all up and you'll set it and go and then come back and you're done.
Yeah.
So many of the recipes are just like, do that, like set it, put in your ingredients, walk away, come back, and you're done, which is incredibly helpful.
So it's really just a crock pot with like half the time.
Yeah, well, what happens is when it's under pressure, it just cooks a lot faster. And then there's also a second thing. I don't know if this is really a thing or not, but they tout it as being a thing, where it's like, because when you're cooking, you're literally like, you're destroying parts of your food that have been like kind of wafting off of it. Is that when you're in this contained pressure environment, none of the nutrients of your food get cooked out of it. It's all just like refocused into it.
Yeah.
What I will say about cons is that there's a few things. Though I've kind of stopped using mine, mostly because I kind of think of it as a winter cooker, because it's stews and soups and roasts and hot meats, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like it also was keeping me, like I was too often just be like, oh, I'm just going to make an Instant Pot thing, instead of like, I'm going to learn how to cook salmon, right, in my cast iron skillet. The other thing is that you don't get a lot of, like, you can't really cook a steak in an Instant Pot, because you have to have, everything that you cook in the Instant Pot has to have a certain amount of liquid in order to pressurize the pot.
Yeah.
So you can't put stuff in there dry or else it'll just burn to the bottom of the pot. So imagine that everything that you put in and then take out has to have some amount of like liquid on it. So it's all kind of soupy, right? Chili, fine. Chicken, fine.
Yeah.
Like take out a roast, right? And then you've got gravy left. That's fine. But if you're looking at like, say, fried chicken, like you can't do that. If you wanted to make salmon, Instant Pot would just obliterate fish, right? Yeah. But if you're looking at stuff that takes a long time, like I was actually just looking at, I went to my old animation teacher when we were talking about cooking, and he was talking about making coq au vin, which is the French chicken dish where you put wine, you marinate chicken in wine, and then you slow cook it with like bacon fat and a lot of butter to basically, it's like the French, right?
Yes.
So it's basically a chicken thigh, a fatty piece of chicken that's been slow cooked in wine, bacon fat, and butter for like 4 hours.
That either sounds disgusting or delicious. I can't decide. With all French food.
I was actually looking at a thing online that was like, here's a way to do it in an Instant Pot. It takes like 45 minutes. Is that you brown the chicken on the stove and you brown the, you cook the bacon, you brown the vegetables, and then you just put it all in the Instant Pot. And then while it's cooking, you basically make up a little sauce. You take your chickens out and then you do it. But everything is kind of like that sort of soupy stuff. So like you don't get a lot of dry or, like I like to eat roasted Brussels sprouts. You can't roast Brussels sprouts in an Instant Pot. Like you can't make breakfast potatoes in an Instant Pot. You can't really cook bacon in an Instant Pot because you're looking for stuff where you can put ingredients in with water or stock and then close it up and let it go. So that's it. I think that if you don't have a lot of time, if you don't know anything about cooking, it's a great starter because all you need is an Instant Pot and a pair of tongs, and you basically have a rice cooker, a vegetable steamer. You can make roasts. You can get a whole roast and make it in about an hour with no muss. Like you don't even have to. You get baby carrots, little potatoes.
You can just open the bags, pour them in.
Yes, you literally can do that. And then when you're done, you'll have a roast with carrots and potatoes, and you get like you put in like beef stock and then like some onion soup mix, and then you just let it go. You've got your gravy, you've got your roast, you got everything, and you literally all you did was you have to sear the meat before you start. And that's about it.
Yeah,
they're also not that expensive, so I think it's an amazing value for what
they've been getting cheaper and cheaper. I have one on my Amazon wish list, and like I keep seeing the prices keep dropping on them.
Yeah, how much?
I don't know. It's been a minute since I looked. I looked before the Prime Day deals stuff happened, so I'm not sure. I just know it was before those sales because John was like, "Do you want one?" And I'm like, "No."
$100.
Yeah,
this is the Duo 6-quart. I think there's and
I think that's not that bad for.
Yeah, that's the one that I have.
Like for kitchen stuff, that's not.
Yeah, I mean that's $100. That's and again, you have to remind yourself. The reason I kept trying to push this is because I wish that people would have told me. I didn't hear about the Instant Pot back when it was like everybody's got the Instant Pot now. Like steel cut oats that you have to boil for a long time, you can make in like 15 minutes. You can steam vegetables. It comes with an insert that will let you basically. It's called a trivet, where it's like just a little. Like a little dais. You can put water, like put a little bit of water below it, and then you just put a bunch of broccoli on top, and then you can steam broccoli, and it takes like 4 minutes. You can make, again, it is a full-on rice cooker. You can make rice, So when you consider all those different things that you can make a soup, just dump a bunch of things. I love, there's a stew recipe online. If you search for Instant Pot stew and then put in the word tapioca balls, because what they do with this one is you go to the store and you buy like a $10 thing of like stew meat that's already been cut.
Yeah.
So it's like stew meat, and then you can throw in some like you can throw in whatever you want to, but it's like carrots. I usually put in celery, mushrooms, but you can put in other stuff too.
Like
I mean, you put
onions, potatoes, whatevs.
I don't usually put in onions or potatoes, but you just put in the vegetables that you want. You don't sear any of this one, and then you put in like a little bit of chicken stock, a can of tomato juice, and then like 2 teaspoons of tapioca balls, and then you set it for 45 minutes. When you come back, the tapioca balls have exploded into the tomato, and it's become like a thick like stew, right? Because a lot of times when you open it up, it'll be very watery, and you have to add either cornstarch or
something to like thicken it up a little.
Right. But in this way, that one's just like a set it and forget it. That one's great. I also have another one that I do a lot of time, which is a turkey chili, Verde turkey chili, where it's basically just like you take a pound of ground turkey, and you slap it in there, you brown it, and then you put in a few different types of vegetables, and then like most of a jar of like Verde salsa, and then some chicken stock, and then when you get done, you've got this like real green chili. Turkey chili, and it's super good. Monterey Jack on the top, good to go. Yeah. I think it's totally worth it. MailerRageSelect.com is the email address. Thanks everybody for writing in. Amanda, I'd like to thank you for coming in and staying late here. Get your questions in. We always need questions, and we'll see you next time.